Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 391. I am Peter, and joining me, as always, is Matt.
Hey, what's up?
This is DC Comics Podcast. We get together and talk about DC books we read this week. Coming up on today's show, we have Superman issue 10, Wonder Woman issue 5, Nightwing 110, Titans 7, Green Lantern War Journal 5, Batman Superman World's Finest 23, J. Garrick The Flash issue 4, and Justice League vs. Godzilla vs. Kong issue 4. So that's what's coming up on today's show. Plus, we also have solicits for April. So we'll be looking through those as well. How's your week been, Matt?
It is pretty good. Very busy. Work has sucked, so, and there's a lot of books to read, so a lot of free time spent reading.
Yeah, I've just, my sleeping pattern's been all over the place. I was up super early today, unnaturally so.
Between you and Connor and our friend Dan, I feel like I'm woefully behind on movies. Because every time I check Letterboxd, you guys are blogging something, and I feel like, I'm falling behind. But
I mean, I've been doing well. I'm at 24 movies, and it's the 20th of January today for the year.
I'm still at 4.
Inevitably, I'm going to get in a video game mood or something, and I'll stop borrowing what I need to watch for shows for like a couple of months. It's inevitably going to happen, but so far, I have made a strong start, and I was planning on watching something after the show today, but I've been awake so goddamn long that I feel like I'm probably just going to crash. But we'll see how it goes. I've got I'll get a couple done tomorrow because I need to do a movie for a show tomorrow anyway, and I'll probably get a second one in. But I'm trying to stay ahead of, so we're on the 20th. I'm trying to stay ahead of how many, like, one per day. As long as I can. I want to be above the number of day that we're on for the year. So far, so good. Inevitably, it will crumble, but the more I get ahead, the less it'll matter when I do miss a day.
right, because you banked them.
Yeah, so, first world problems and all that, but it's...
No, yeah, they are. I just, between work and the gym and then coming home and dinner and hockey, because you don't have sports to go with.
No sports. I'm not watching wrestling just now. I'm not playing video games that much right now, so it's all movies.
That's all movies, but I look on there and the competitive part of my brain, the dirtbag part, is like, you gotta watch something. I'll probably end up by next Sunday. I'll end up having some watched, but... No,
I don't think you've got Pro on Letterboxd yet.
No.
But what I like about that, especially at the start of the year, is it tells you for the year, like say you've watched 3 movies with Sylvester Stallone in them. It'll give you your top 20. It's fun seeing that start to populate as you don't realize that you've done 2 movies with the same actor, and you start getting these matches popping up. So for example, I ended up with 2 Andy Samberg, and I'm like, why have I got 2 Andy Samberg? What else was he in? And it turns out he voiced someone in Across the Spider-Verse, and I'm like, oh, okay, all right, I've got 2 Andy Samberg. Okay, fair enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he plays Ben Reilly.
Yeah, so there's a bunch. I've got a bunch of 2s so far in the actors. I've got 11 doubles.
What else did you watch with Andy Samberg in it?
Self-Reliance. I watched that yesterday.
Gotcha. I didn't realize he was in that.
Yeah, well, it's a Lonely Island movie, yeah.
Okay.
It's written, directed, and starring Jake Johnson.
I know. It's on my list, and a lot of people aren't liking it, which now I'm worried.
It's a 6 out of 10. It's a 6.
Yeah.
It exists. It's there. Mm-hmm. It's unoffensive for the most part.
Oh, sounds like I like it.
My only double in director so far is Wes Craven. But it's early days yet. We'll see how this changes. Like, how many of these actors that are on 2 will even be in the top 20 by the end of the year? I don't know. I love seeing how that stuff works out.
Well, also, so what were the 2 Wes Cravens? I know one of them was Nightmare on Elm Street.
The other one was Deadly Friend, which I did with Tim on a bonus episode of Screams After Midnight. It's a crazy movie. It's the movie he did right after Nightmare on Elm Street in 1986. It's one of them
I've not seen. Yeah.
It's got a very crazy plot. It's got a young Kristen Swanson in it. And there's a famous clip of it that I had seen for years, like for like a decade on the internet, either in GIF form or in clip form, of a basketball doing something to someone. And I was excited to finally see the movie it was in, but the plot was way crazier than I was. Matt's Googling Deadly Friend GIF. I bet you he is right now.
All you have to do is type in Deadly Friend, and the first thing that comes up is basketball.
Yep, so, there you go. Yeah.
Is this along the lines of Garbage Day?
What, in quality?
Not in quality, but in just like sheer lunacy, where if you didn't know what was like, if you don't know where it's from, it just makes you question, like, what the hell?
Honestly, the plot's crazier than Silent Night, Deadly Night 2.
Okay, well, what's this on? So, like, is this streaming? Is this from a Wes Craven collection?
I purchased it on iTunes for I believe $7.99. So
gotcha.
You can make your choice. I think Tim got like a special edition Blu-ray that he got like last year. So
I usually when Tim watches stuff, his collecting has gone way out of control. Like usually when people have kids, they stop collecting. Tim has doubled down. And just the number of stuff that he's constantly posting.
Well, it's because he never gets to go out, so collecting's his one vice.
True. But I'm just like, the movie collections that he's picking up, and I know he's getting them for, like, deals. There's some weird stuff in there.
To be fair,
like Deadly Friend.
Since I started buying movies on iTunes, like, in 2021, I've kind of went out of control. I've got almost 500 movies that way now.
Wow.
But I buy most of them when they're on sale for like $4 or $5, like, so they rack up quite a bit.
Gotcha. So. Well, I don't want to. Oh man, that's the mom. That's the mom, the evil mom from Goonies.
Oh yeah, Mama Fratelli's in it. Yeah.
So
I'll just to describe my feelings on this movie, and if you want my full review, everyone, is a Patreon bonus episode of Screams After Midnight, our horror movie podcast. But what?
the GIF. It finally I found it. It was a lot of video, and I don't want to play video because the sound and whatever. Sure.
Yeah.
So I had to find because I just put it in the basketball. So I finally found the GIF, and now it's replaying over and over. That's great.
Yeah. So I knew nothing about this movie other than that clip of the basketball and a certain head going pop. The first 20 seconds of this movie feature a thief breaking into a car, going through a purse that's been left in the car, which is its own little question mark, because why did the mum leave the purse in there when she was going to pay for something? That's a very weird choice. But out of nowhere, from the back seat of the van, is a robot hand comes out and grabs him by the throat, and he gets scared. And I'm like, wait, there's a robot in this? Yes, a robot that a teenager built is pivotal to the plot of Deadly Friend.
So it's definitely like a dark version of Short Circuit. I mean, without the government, of course. But by the way, if you guys want to rent this, if this sounds like something, you can get it on iTunes for rental for $3.
Yeah, the rental's fine. Yeah, the rental's a reasonable price. Yeah. So it's not hard to find in that sense. It's just not on a streaming service. It's part Short Circuit, part Frankenstein,
and 1/3 Tammy and the T-Rex.
That's you know what? That's not as crazy as you probably just guessed that. It's not as crazy as you maybe thought, but possibly.
I'm judging just from the GIF and it being Christy Swanson. I'm taking some gambles here with the story. So
I'll just say, for years I didn't know in that GIF that she was actually just a human body possessed by the robot mind of a robot that someone built and had some weird problems. Anyway,
fun times. Yeah, man. I rest in peace, Wes Craven, because regardless how you feel about the movies, they're always good for a talk. Oh yeah, you know.
For the record, it's not a great movie in any objective level, but it's definitely worth discussion. Like it does stuff. Like you can't deny weird stuff's happening, so there's stuff to talk about.
Well, it's like Shocker too, as well, right? You wouldn't just say that Shocker's a great movie, but you can talk about it.
Yeah. So, I wasn't expecting to talk about Deadly Friends so much in this episode, but here we are.
Here we go.
Yeah. If you want to see a proper 80s horror movie that's fun with robots, check out Chopping Mall. It's the It's the go-to classic.
And that is on Shudder because it's been in my Shudder queue for a minute now, which I probably will give it a watch on Sunday, finally.
Which also has a pretty good head explosion in it, for the record. Right? Not the best, because the best is Scanners. Nothing will probably ever top Scanners, but...
Yeah, Cronenberg knows head explosions. That is Cronenberg, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
I was questioning myself for a hot second.
Yep, that's Cronenberg. So, anywho... So it's a comics podcast, everyone, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So we'll get into Matt's favourite segment of the show, which is the ComiXology Top 10. So, yes, or the Kindle Store rankings as of time of looking at them, which is not as catchy, but I'll say it anyway.
Yeah.
So we'll look at Tuesday first because they split them up by days. So this is the DC day. Matt, what do you think is number one from DC?
Do I want to go tie-in or do I want to go... Man... I'll jump. I will say because of Beast World, I'll go with Titans.
Incorrect.
That's incorrect. All right. Pivoting from Beast World, Wonder Woman.
That is correct.
There it is. All
Wonder
right.
Woman.
So I should have. Yeah.
Yep, that is ranking number one right now. Number two is Batman Superman World's Finest. Yeah, that's impressive enough. Perhaps even more impressive is number three is Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong.
Yeah, the heart wants what the heart wants.
people are into it. They're into the crossover. 4 is Nightwing. 5 is Superman. 6 is Titans. 7 is Superman Lost. 8 is Hellblazer. 9 is J. Garrick the Flash. 10 is Green Lantern War Journal. So that's how that shapes up. I could do with Green Lantern War Journal being up a bit, but
I feel like our two favorite writers, right? Well, I'm talking here. Two of our favorite writers, Philip Kennedy Johnson and Ram V, are both. I like to think they're making it in physical sales.
I hope so.
Because both of their names tend to end up near the bottom of the ComiXology list. But I mean, everyone's talking about them. At least the people that I know. I got to recommend Ram V's Swamp Thing to a friend last night. He was looking for comic recommendations. So, and he's like, "Oh, I did hear about that." So that's a good thing.
Yeah, spread the good word. Spread the good word.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Wednesday, looking at Marvel and the other publishers, what do you think number one is?
Let's see, there's a new Avengers book, but I don't know if it's a continuity thing. There's also an X-Men. I'm looking to see if there's any big independent that I might miss. So I'll guess X-Men 30.
Wrong.
Really? Is it the Avengers Twilight?
Wrong.
Oh my goodness. Nothing else is popping up.
What could it be?
What could it be? It's not Jackpot, right?
No.
Because that's the first tie-in that I'm seeing, but I was like,
Yeah, I even know who Jackpot is.
Don't let it be. Don't let it be Cable.
No, it's not Cable.
Okay, all right. I'm out of guesses, then I have no idea what it could be.
It's not a Marvel book.
Okay.
Is
it Cobra Commander?
It is Cobra Commander.
I wasn't even thinking.
Yes. Apparently, even Wednesday's not safe from mediocre Joshua Williamson comic books because Cobra Commander's out.
So he's doing Cobra Commander and G.I. Joe, which makes a lot of sense.
Those two as a pair make a lot of sense for sure.
That's what I mean. So I didn't think that was him. That's why I was like, I thought it was just part of the G.I. Joe launch. So.
Yeah, number 2 is Avengers Twilight. Number 3 is X-Men. Number 4 is Invincible Iron Man. 5 is Cable. 6 is Daredevil. 7 is G.I. Joe. 8 is Amazing Spider-Man. That seems low for Amazing Spider-Man, but fair enough. 9 is Fantastic Four. And number 10 is the previously mentioned Jackpot. Is that a Mary Jane book? Is that what that is?
I believe so, because it's... I think she was meant to... I don't know if it is Mary Jane or if it was meant to be like representative of Mary Jane in the Spider-Verse stuff. But this is the Gang War tie-in. Oh yeah, no, it is her. It's Mary Jane as Jackpot. So...
Okay.
Yeah. So... But yeah, Gang War tie-in. The Cable, why I said it can't be Cable, was back in the early days when me and Pete first met in one of the Facebook comic groups we were in. he was responsible for holding countdowns. And his number 2 reveal for most things would always end up being Cable as a troll. So that's the most relevant Cable's been in a very long time to me. So.
Yep. So there's the ComiXology top 10 or whatever weird long form title that I can't remember I said earlier. Well, that'll take us out to solicits. These are the solicits for April of 2024. We'll work our way through. I've not looked at these. I don't know why Poison Ivy's at the top of the list, but we'll start with that. Poison Ivy 21. This is
Fantastic
random.
Cover?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sure, but it's really random. Usually they'll put something if they're going to break alphabetical for some reason, it'll be because they want to promote this book.
I'm wondering if because it says that it's comes was in the final chapter, G. Willow Wilson and Takara's unforgettable origin of species storyline. So I'm wondering if this is the final issue.
But it doesn't say that though.
Why. It doesn't say final issue, but yeah.
But they maybe stopped doing that because I feel like there were some examples recently of them not saying that, but it was the final issue. Yeah, I mean, it does kind of sound like it could be based on the description, so maybe this might actually be your final Poison Ivy issue. Or maybe the end of their run at the very least. Okay. Alright, well, there you go. Action Comics 1064. This is the first of the Williamson issues that will tie into a storyline with Superman. Fair enough, I guess. I don't have much to say.
House of Brainiac. So he's been seeding this since he started Superman, right? The Brainiac stuff?
Yeah, there's been a few things here or there. Yeah. I mean, it was mainly in that special issue, though. There was that little story at the back that did that. What was that? Was that Superman 800 that did that, I think?
I believe so.
We have Shazam issue 10, which looks delightful. We got our T-Rex accountant in the foreground, and we've got like a house with the front removed so we can see inside it.
Oh, wow. There's a new creative team on there.
Oh, so it is. What's interesting about that, actually, is that the writer on this issue is Josie Campbell, who was doing the Mary Marvel stuff. So I wonder if this is a permanent change, or if this is a case of like a little fill-in issue or arc, and she's kind of second in command because she's the one doing Mary Marvel books.
So reading the text there, it says, find out as a new run brought to you by fan favorites Josie Campbell and Emanuela Lupacchino, which, guys, watch out. I'm never going to shut up about this book now.
Oh, yeah, because you've been so quiet about it up until this point.
But you're giving me like Mora. I like Mora, fantastic. But Lupacchino is one of my favorite, artists working.
I have been loving Mark Waid's Shazam. It's sad that he's coming to an end on it. However, if I was to pick a replacement based on that previous Mary Marvel mini and the current Amazon's Attack book, Josie Campbell would be at the top of the list. My only concern is now that it won't sell as well, and therefore might not last that much longer.
Yeah. But it must be selling okay enough to keep letting Josie Campbell run this Mary Marvel story, right?
Possibly, but I mean, maybe the hope is that because Waid came in and started this book off and gave it some decent sales, that they're hoping that that'll rub off on the book continuing. But we'll see. I hope it does. I do hope that works. Yeah. But I'm just concerned that we'll like this, but it'll still end after 6 more issues just because it's not selling amazingly. But here's hoping, because I'm all for it. And it does look like it's continuing the plot threads that Waid set up, because it's all about them moving house, which obviously has already been set up in the previous issue. So that's Shazam issue 10. We have DC's Spring Breakout. This is their spring 80-page anthology book with a bunch of names. I recognize a couple of names in here, but no one huge. Obviously, Megan Fritz Martin seems to always be in these anthology books these days. Joey Esposito's in there, but yeah, nothing super to write home about.
Looking at the art side too, there's Georgiev and Paul Pelletier. So other than that, there's also a bunch of new names, which I do like these as showcase for up and coming, writers and artists getting to work on these characters, without having a book.
Sure. We have the Harley Quinn 2024 annual. This is by Erica Henderson, both writing and drawing.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. We have Batman 146. So,
yep.
I see. I see villains as if they're the Waynes on that cover. Maybe that's my. I'm just interpreting it that way. But I see villains lying as if they've been shot in Crime Alley.
Yeah, because it's Punchline Joker and it looks like Riddler.
Yeah.
So with Batman cowl covered in blood. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Free Comic Day special, Barda, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've got a Free Comic Day Barkham Asylum. So these are just teases for those graphic novels. There's also a Free Comic Day Mad Magazine special. The thing we're going to really talk about here, though, this is obviously their main thing for Free Comic Book Day, is... I don't know why Matt finds it so funny, but...
so the way that they titled it so they don't give anything away, it's the Free Comic Book Day DC Major Event 2024 Free Comic Book Day Special Edition.
It's definitely clunky in its current form. Obviously,
yes.
By the time it comes out, it'll have a easier title, I presume.
It'll be whatever the event is. 2020.
Here's the description, though, just if there's any clues here. The prelude to the biggest DC Comics event of 2024 is here. It's a story 30 years in the making, and this special Free Comic Book Day tale is the final domino in a fall of an epic scheme that comes tumbling down, and the DC universe will never be the same. More details coming soon. So this has just got a black cover with no details on it. 30 years is interesting because 30 years takes us back to about 1994. And I'm wondering, when was 0 Hour? That was about...
That was 93, 94.
Yeah.
That was Final Night, 0 Hour. I was having the same exact thoughts you were just now about 0 Hour.
Interesting. It may not even tie in. Maybe 30 years may not even be supposed to be literally exactly 30 years. It may just be a broad number.
True. But what other events in the 90s? I mean, you had the death of Superman, who we just had the 30th of, right? Nightfall, but that wasn't like a that was a Batman event, right? But not a whole DC. So my Brady immediately goes to 0 Hour.
Yeah, 0 Hour seems likely. But I could see it being Death of Superman related. I could see it being something to do with Doomsday, like someone's cloning Doomsday or something. And there's like a whole army of Doomsdays.
Yeah, I
don't know. I'm not saying that's a good idea. It's just
no. That's like the what were they? What were they called? The Dark Knights from DC Metal. The different versions of Batman.
The Dark Knights of Steel.
Yeah. No, that was the other book. What were they called?
Well, that's the metal one. You're talking about the Dark Batman from the Dark Multiverse, right?
Yeah. That's where the Batman Who Laughs came from, and then you had like the Aquaman version, and you know, this is what I if it was an army of Doomsdays, you know, there's gonna be a Flash Doomsday, there'll be a Wonder Doomsday, you know, all that type of stuff.
I mean, that would just be copying that.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to be that, or they will rightly get made fun of for doing it. Detective Comics 1084. Obviously, we kind of know what the end date is now on Ram V's run. Very nice cover though. Cool to see. Batman and Robin issue 8. Not much to add there. Batman Off-World issue 5. That's a very interesting cover. Very creepy looking Cenobite looking.
I don't like them. I'll say that much.
Aliens, I guess they are.
Yeah.
Possibly demons. I don't know. Batman Dark Age issue 2. This is the Mark Russell mini, which I presume was in last month's solicits as well.
Yep.
We have Catwoman 64. She's got a cat-eared space helmet on the cover, which is amusing. I'll give it that.
Very mid-century sci-fi vibes.
We have Batman Brave and the Bold issue 12. So that's still going. We have Nightwing 113, which is also issue 300, which... Let me just double check my numbers. I think this confirms I've been right. Yep.
Yeah.
This week's issue is 297, which means I have had the right legacy numbering. Therefore, when I tell you that Green Lantern's issue 540 something, You know I'm right, right? They've just admitted it. What's funny about this is that once again, Superman this week didn't have the legacy numbering on the cover, unless it's on the physical one, but it's just not on the digital version. But I doubt that somehow. So, but it's nice to see them acknowledge that this is issue 300. That's
or you're just really good at counting dick.
Well, I know I've got one.
It was there. I had to take it.
I can only speculate as to the number of dicks you've got.
I just meant, you're so sure, but it was your 300th. That's why.
Yes, it's the 300th dick. Oh yeah, so yeah, it seems to be a regular size $5 book, which is what it normally is with the backup. So maybe they'll do something special inside.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it's going to be a celebration of Dick Grayson. So I'm wondering what Taylor has planned, because
there's still a backup listed. I thought they might give the whole page count to just the main story, since it's a special issue, but it is still got the backup. So yeah, I don't know. It's got an interesting cover. It's doing that Redondo thing of like running through the various blocks and panels. But cool. We also have a Nightwing 2024 annual, but this is written and drawn by Travis Moore. I don't know if I've ever read anything written by Travis Moore before.
Me neither.
Interesting. Secret Origins of Bea Bennett. So
yeah, Pirate Queen. So,
I'll admit I'm not that excited by that.
I want to see what Mora's got. I'll head back to the pirate realm.
I mean, I'm curious about Travis Moore writing. Yeah. I'm just not that interested in the origin of the pirate lady.
Yeah.
Because pirates suck and they're boring. So, we have Harley Quinn 39. Not much to add there. We have Birds of Prey issue 8. That's neat. Is that Vixen on the cover of that?
Indeed, is Vixen.
Interesting. Very nice. Marie McCabe, on the description. Very good. Very cool. Art by Javier Pina on this issue. I don't think I recognize that name. Do you know a Javier Pina?
I do not.
No, interesting. Another fill-in artist then on issue 8. So cool. We have Outsiders issue 6. Oh, that's a very interesting cover. It's like, Batwoman mowing the lawn in a suburban area, and you've got Luke as the mailman, but the really impressive thing is that the coloring's only in the foreground, and as the image goes back, it just becomes black and white and untextured. Yeah, it's just a very interesting visual overall. But it's been an interesting book so far, so I'm very curious. We have Red Hood the Hill issue 3. I forgot this was going to be a thing, but
as did I. I think we said that the last 2 times.
Probably. Well, not the first time. The first time it'd been, hey, what's this new thing? So, hey. We got Batman Superman World's Finest, issue 26.
Let's go. You got Batmite and Mixapidalic on the cover.
We also have Doommite, apparently.
Oh, no. Maybe that's what it's setting up. Maybe Mark Waid's writing the new... And it's Doommite for the Free Comic Book Day special.
Pardon me. I do wonder if Waid's off Shazam, if he's doing something else as well as World's Finest. I hope he is. We have Penguin issue 9. So, cool.
What a happy family in that picture that's broken.
Yes, with the tint of red that just implies a blood stain underneath as well, just for good measure.
I got a Gia Domenico cover, so that's cool.
We have Superman issue 13. This is also part of the House of Brainiac. This is part 2, so good to know. We have Superman House of Brainiac Special issue 1. So this is basically the annual for this, because it's on that 5th week of the month. So this is cool. It means you get part 3 of this. Well, it says part 2.5 technically, but whatever. It's basically part 3 of the storyline, and it does mean that it should feel like an event, because we're going to have 3 parts of it in 1 month. So cool. Power Girl issue 8 is a thing that's going to exist. We also have Suicide Squad Dream Team issue 2. This is the Nicole Maines book. We got Sinister Sons issue 3. This is obviously the son of Sinestro.
Sinestro. Yep, Sinestro and Lord Zod.
We have Kneel Before Zod issue 4. We have Wonder Woman issue 8. With a very, very striking cover, might I add. Wonder Woman really pops against those muted blue backgrounds.
Yep.
We have The Flash issue 8. We also have a Flash Annual 2024. Again, coming out on that 5th week in April. It's always nice to see at least a few annuals on that 5th week, because sometimes you get like all the books we're not reading get annuals, and we're like, oh shit, what are we going to talk about? You know?
Yep.
I suppose if there's literally none, we'll just have a week off, which maybe that'd be nice, but oh well. We got annuals. Speed Force issue 6, which is the final issue of that book's out in April. We have Titans issue 10. Lucas Meyer on the art on this one, who has been impressing us so far.
Yep. Excited for that. Looks like they're doing Trigon, judging from the multiple sets of eyes. So
wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, wouldn't surprise me. We got Green Arrow issue 11. That's going on. We got Green Lantern issue 10. Art by Xermanico and Kevin Maguire. Not that I necessarily think of them as being similar, but I do like Kevin Maguire's art, so it's not a bad second name to read.
Yeah, so this is, I think that's is it a backup? Is this plus Kevin Maguire joins Green Lantern architect Jeremy Adams to tell the tale of Guy Gardner, the United Planets, Lobo, and Wrestling? ?
So you Matt, you're getting your wish. You're getting the Guy Gardner chases Lobo story as a backup.
I'm excited. It's called Guy's Bogus Lobo Adventure, part 1 of 3. So
you're getting a backup with art by Kevin Maguire, with Guy chasing a Lobo. Congratulations, Matt. You must be very happy.
I'm winning.
Yeah. Green Lantern War Journal issue 8.
That's a great cover. That is, man, Montos is killing that.
Yep.
With the gradient going on there, where white and black, blue and red. Yeah, it looks real cool.
We got Blue Beetle issue 8.
Mm-hmm.
We got Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong issue 7, which is the final issue in April. So I'm actually glad I read that, because I would have assumed that was 6 issues. So
yeah,
nice to be reminded that it's 7. We have Suicide Squad Kill Arkham Asylum issue 4. Obviously, this is tying into the video game that's coming out. We have Superman 78, The Metal Curtain, issue 6. Mm-hmm. We have Justice Society of America, issue 11, which I don't think any of them have been delayed recently, so that might still be on track for then. We have Batman Dylan Dog, issue 2. I'm sure I said this last time, but I don't know who Dylan Dog is, so fair, I'll just...
And we went over it's an Italian detective character.
Fair enough.
Like from Italy, yeah.
There's Batman and Robin and Howard issue 2. Who's Howard?
I believe he's the kid here.
Good detective skills, Matt. I was hoping for more than that. Look
at that. My mom didn't even wear pearls.
We have Primer issue 2. And we got Batman Scooby-Doo Mysteries issue 4. We have Scooby-Doo Where Are You 127. From the DC Vaults, The Sandman issue 19 remastered. So that's a thing. We still have some stuff, though. We have the Black Label stuff, seemingly, because we got the Batman First Night issue 2. This is the Dan Jurgens and Mike Perkins book.
I forgot about this.
Yeah, I forgot about this, too. The Prestige Plus. That cover is pretty.
Yeah. Because this is the Batman, right? This is like the Batman from... Detective 27.
Those ears. Those ears would certainly imply as such. But yeah, it's like negative space, but then inside the shape of the Batman, you've got all the actual art of various characters in the story. It looks very, very nice. So yeah, very intrigued to check out that. There's also John Constantine, Hellblazer, Dead in America. This is issue 4 of 9 by Cy Spurrier and Aaron Campbell. Then we got Brave and the Bold, 54 Facsimile Edition, Showcase 22 Facsimile Edition, and then we're on to the collections and graphic novels and whatnot.
Finally, we get the Cami Garcia, Gabe Piccolo, Starfire book.
Is that a sequel?
Well, yeah, so they've been working their way through the Titans, right? So
I see.
Yeah, we had Beast Boy, Raven, now I think there's a Cyborg, and now we got Starfire, so...
All right. We also have Prez Setting a Dangerous President. With the collection for Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong solicited. That's going to a hardcover to begin with. There's Batman Catwoman the Gotham War hardcover. I can't say I recommend that.
Nope, just don't.
But it's got 2 issues of Batman, 2 issues of Catwoman, and then all the 1-issue specials and whatnot that made it up.
Yeah.
We have Batman Beyond Neo Gothic in hardcover. We have Nightwing Volume 5 in hardcover. That's issues 101 to 105. So that was the lead-in to Titans starting, actually. This is the one. This is the story that had all the Titans and Nightwing. That feels kind of late, actually, now I'm thinking about it.
A little bit, right?
Yeah, what's taking that so long to come out? Because that was a while ago. We have Green Lantern Volume 1 back in action. This is just going straight to softcover, weirdly, but hey, maybe they'll do a nice deluxe hardcover down the line, who knows. Notably, it does include the 2 Night Terrors Green Lantern issues. I guess they felt they had to because the cliffhanger of issue 2 kind of led into it. But...
yeah, and you can't even just like skip it though either. Like you can't just put it behind. Like, you know, put 1 through 6 and then Night Terrors 1 to 2. Well, because of that.
Yeah, but that's the thing though. When you come back for issue 3, the Night Terrors didn't matter at all. So it's just annoying that cliffhanger almost necessitates that you in some way have those in there. Although, to be honest, like without the main story explaining why the Night Terrors are happening, I don't think it actually explains anything. It'll just feel like 2 really weird issues. So that's a shame, but hey, it's been a good book so far though, so minor nitpick all things considered. Hot Girl Once Upon a Galaxy, soft cover of that miniseries. Titans Volume 1 Out of the Shadows, soft cover. Shazam Volume 1 Meet the Captain, soft cover. Red Hood Outlaws Volume 2, Vixen NYC Volume 6. We have Danger Street Volume 2. This is soft cover. This is definitely getting a deluxe hardcover with all of it down the line. So if you want to wait for that, then, you know, brace yourself for it.
Oh, my goodness.
We have Identity Crisis 20th Anniversary Deluxe Edition. So that's getting the deluxe hardcover treatment.
Right.
Oh, jeez.
I don't like that that's getting a 20th anniversary. I don't like time.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
I had this realization as I was watching Nightmare on Elm Street.
I know. I know what you're going to say about that and Scream.
Yeah, only 12 years apart.
Yeah. And like you said, they feel like 2 separate eras.
They do. They feel like just completely different times. But 12 years ago from today is 2012. That's the year Avengers and Dark Knight Rises came out, just to put that in perspective.
I saw someone else talking about this, about how weird the time dilation is, and they're trying to figure out why that is. Why movies that, like, as they're bringing up Mean Girls, the new musical, and all of that, and, you know, that movie came out 20 years ago, but it doesn't feel like it was 20 years ago. And just all this weird stuff.
Well. I think this is an age thing, Matt. I think someone who is 15, I think 20 years ago to them feels like an eternity. Because everything before I'm born feels like it's way in the past, even if the actual amount of time is not that far.
Right, but even like you just pointed out with the stuff from the 90s, right? Something like That Thing You Do came out in 96. You know what I mean? That feels like a completely different era of movie making, you know, despite being closer in time.
I don't know. Formulas have become more stringent, so a lot of the studio stuff feels kind of samey, I guess. I don't know. I think part of it is that franchises go more steadily, so you're still getting MCU movies, you know, 14, 15 years later. When back in the day, your movie franchise would have been over in 5 years.
Or you had stuff like Bond, which kept going, right? So you had the end of the Connery era into the other ones, like they all feel a little bit different, you know. They're whereas I don't think
honestly, Matt, though, I think most of this is just an age thing. I think it's the perspective of us because of the age we are. Maybe,
but like the thing about the 20 years different, like you pointing out with Scream and stuff too. That was, as I was going before you went off on the diatribe, is I saw that video and then I saw your tweet within like a day of each other. And it was just weird that this seems to be a thing that we're thinking about right now.
Yeah. So, anywho, that's that. We have Batman Beyond the White Knight, getting a soft cover. Batman the Knight getting a soft cover. Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths getting a soft cover. Dark Crisis Young Justice getting a soft cover. JLA Year One getting a new soft cover.
I'm excited for that. That was one that has slipped by me, so I might have to pick that up.
Nightwing Volume 3, The Battle for Bloodhaven's Heart soft cover.
So glad that's the cover. That's a beautiful cover.
Yeah, so... it's wild that Titans arc is only just getting its hardcover, and we're only on this part for the soft covers. This is so far behind, it's kind of nuts. Poison Ivy Volume 1, The Virtuous Circle, soft cover. Secret Six by Gail Simone Omnibus Volume 1, so...
Let's go!
That's getting a 2-part omnibus, that's interesting.
Yeah, so that's got Villains United 1 through 6, Villains United Infinite Crisis Special, Birds of Prey, Secret... Yeah, there's a whole lot in here that's not just Secret Six.
Yeah, there's a whole arc of Birds of Prey, and then there's the Secret Six miniseries, which is 6 issues, and then the first 16 issues of the ongoing Secret Six. And then, obviously the rest of the series will be in the second omnibus. Interesting. With Super Sons, the Complete Collection, Book 1, so that's getting those big, thick soft covers.
That's cool.
Yeah, 500 or so pages each. Superman, Son of Kal-El, Volume 3, finishing Tom Taylor's run in softcover. Tales from Dark Crisis, collection of a lot of those one-shots and stuff from Dark Crisis. We have Batman Justice Buster Volume 3.
It's the manga.
Yeah, we have Batman Scooby-Doo Mysteries Volume 4. We have the Batman Family Year 1 box set, which is the Chuck Dixon Year 1's box of it.
So it looks like it's Nightwing, Batgirl, and Robin Year 1.
Yeah. Interesting. And then we have The Flash by William Mesner Loebs and Greg LaRocque, Omnibus Volume 1. I actually don't know what era this is off the top of my head.
Well, we're gonna look.
1 to 100. Oh wait, is this the start of Volume 2? Is this like pre-Mark Waid?
It must be, because it says following the death of Barry Allen, so that would put this post-crisis firmly.
Well, Waid starts at... Where does he start in Flash? It's like the 50s or something, I think. So this might only have 2 volumes, and then you've got the Waid books.
Yeah. So it's 1 through 28, Flash Annual 1 through 3, Manhunter 8 and 9, Secret Origins 2, and pages from Invasion 2 and 3. That's so funny.
I appreciate that they're trying to make a lot of their biggest characters completely readable since Crisis. I think that's great. Yeah. So, and I think this era of Flash gets ignored because it's like no one cares until Waid came on board. And maybe these issues aren't amazing or anything, but it's great that they should be available. You should be able to read Flash from issue 1 from post-Crisis all the way to today, and that's just nice to see. We also have Hitman by Garth Ennis and John McCrea, Omnibus Volume 1. Fair enough. And that wraps up the solicits for April. All right. Yep. There you go. Cool. That's the solicits. Not a lot of juicy stuff in the collections there, but the 2 things that stuck out there would be Secret Six Omnibus Volume 1 and that Flash Omnibus Volume 1. Those are the ones that I think stick out as being interesting things to collect. So, cool. So
real quick, fun things about this guy, about that Flash collection.
Yeah.
I just went to pull up the writer, and he's the creator of Linda Park. So he introed Linda to the Flash Mythos.
I mean, that makes sense, because it's Wally's ongoing book for the first time. Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm trying to see where else. But yeah, it just says he began writing Flash with issue 15 and continued to 61. So I'm wondering what's 1 through 28 then too. So yeah.
Wait, what?
But it says here, according to this article, that he started writing Flash at issue 15 and went through 61.
Okay. Well, there was multiple names on the omnibus there, so yeah, it'll just be. Yeah, it's just going to be a case of you'll get 2 omnibuses and that'll take you up to Waid. That's what it's going to be, which is cool. So, all right, let's get to the comics for the week then, shall we? We got some stuff to talk about. We'll start with Superman issue 10, Legacy number 853. This is Joshua Williamson and Bruno Redondo on art. So we'll get into this. So I don't know how to feel, right? Because I was super like rolling my eyes at the end of the last issue of like, oh, he's in the Wild West now. He's went back in time. And part of the reason why I was rolling my eyes is because I thought, oh, is this going to be a whole arc? And so the reason why I'm conflicted here is, on the one hand, they're back in present day by the end of the issue. It was a one-issue thing. So on one hand, I should be quite positive about that. But on the other hand, I also feel like not enough happened that it felt like it justified even bothering to do it in the first place. So
yeah, why? Besides wanting to draw Western Superman, which I get, like, cool, it's a vibe. I don't get it. Like,
yeah,
it was such an unnecessary, like, what's the word? Like,
tangent.
When you go off the beat, yeah, tangent, I guess. Or it's like when you go off, like, on a road trip and you end up, like, taking a side road for nothing.
A detour is the word you're looking for.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you. It was an unnecessary detour.
I think the purpose in the story only really amounts to the idea that Superman had to be missing while something mysterious happens back at Supercorp. Because we get this tease at the start where the alarms start going off when Lois and Mercy and Lena are looking for where Superman disappeared to, right? And then we don't see him a whole issue because we're back in the Wild West. And when we come back at the end, there's this tease of, oh, something bad went down here. And it's only, is it Lena that's left at the end? I'm still on the first page, but yeah. So it's like, oh, next issue, find out what happened in this time span. So the only real purpose is to keep Superman away and unaware of what's going on. Now, maybe some of the things that happened in the past is going to be important. I mean, we still have these two creepy kids and the mother who seem to be villains.
Right. It seemed to be Dr. Farm. And
that's the obvious assumption. It's Farm and Graft. Yeah.
Right. And there's that. And then, there's this thing with Marilyn Moonlight where there's this lady that's seeing it all go down. And Clark looks at her and is like, do you think you just inspired yourself? So there's more in her. I do like the idea of that character of this pulpy Metropolis that still doesn't make sense to me because Metropolis is firmly on the eastern seaboard. It makes no sense why it looks like an old western town, but whatever. But you know what I mean? Like,
they just wanted a western, Matt. That's all.
Yeah,
it is. It's the same with Gotham. Gotham's meant to be in that part of the country as well, and yet you have All-Star Western and books like that are set in Gotham back in the day.
Right. But like, I just, so I like the idea of Marilyn Moonlight being this old pulpy, defender of Metropolis before, Superman's even thought of. So it's playing with some fun things there, and like the whole.
Well, let's get into that because we learned some things here. Is that she was done? She died.
Yeah.
Like she had her time as a hero, seemingly in this old Western time period, because we see what seems to be a younger version of her that she inspires to go and be who she is, and it's Farm and Graft doing experiments on her to reanimate her that brought her back, but she only exists when there's moonlight. It doesn't seem to affect her in the past, maybe because her real living version is also there at the same time.
Yeah.
But in present day, as soon as they get back to present day and the sun's out, she just fades away. And Superman makes a promise to help her find out, or solve why she's back and deal with the people who did it, yada yada yada.
And poetically, the idea that Superman's charged by the sun and he's he is the sunlight that spreads across the land, and the fact that she's moonlight, I do like that. That they seem to be opposites. Almost like if it wasn't for Lois, almost like a doomed romance kind of thing. He can only be out in the sun. She can only be in the moon. There's that kind of dynamic. So, but yeah, this is such a weird issue. Like, I still trying to make heads and tails of it. A lot of fun action though. Like, they do some. They're still on the train in this one, right? We get the train going through town.
There's no real train stuff. It's they're already in the town, and there's this villain at the saloon who's got a laser pistol.
That's correct. Yeah, it's Terrorman.
Terrorman, yeah.
Me.
Who Clark basically challenges to a duel, and we get that play out. Superman gets hit, but he's not at full strength yet. He's still bulletproof.
Yep.
And is able to win at that point. I mean, the art's very good. Like, if nothing else, obviously it's Bruno Redondo on the art. Everything's gorgeous. Terror Man trying to like get away in his little like hovercraft thing, and Marlin Moonlight lassoing him. Like, all that stuff looks great, right? Like, I can't fault the art. I can't fault the visuals.
No, especially that first visual, right? It looks like from an old Western movie, like Stagecoach. You know, they're going across this barren landscape, you know, and it's Clark on his white horse and Marilyn Moonlight on her moonlight horse, and just the way that the way that they're in the center of the screen and the rolling hills in the back and stuff, it really sets the mood. And then when you get to the end and Superman's back in current times, and you know he goes around and cycles around the planet, you know, to me those shots are very similar. You know, it's just the whole setting the tone of what's going on here and kind of what the bigger picture is. So yeah, Redondo's killing it on the art. I just wish the story kind of was on par.
Also, it seems like the mother or grandmother of the kids that we think are farming graft was a villain in this time period, because one of the panels of Marlin Moonlight fighting a bad guy is fighting this woman who's in a tank of some kind. So that's a thing there. But she mentions that she grew old, she died with family surrounding her, and then someone reanimated her like Frankenstein, but she's only existing in the moonlight. So I mean, that's an interesting bit of backstory. Like, I'm okay with that. But like, you know, I maybe that's the main purpose of this more than anything else, is just to fill in some of Marlin Moonlight stuff, which, you know, I guess it's fine in that sense. I think the actual plot of when they're in the West, which is just Terror Man, and it all just like being, oh, let's go and get him at the saloon, let's have a duel, let's catch him, that's it, it's over, he had the device that'll let us get back home. That I find very underwhelming. I think the teases of Marlin Moonlight are fine, but everything with the actual villain and the plot of what they're doing in the past is just kind of but like you said, the gorgeous art, particularly when he gets back to present day and he's flying around the earth and he's saving the cat and whatever else. Yeah,
he's doing like Superman stuff. Is what you think about when, you know, he's helping put out the fire with the fire department, and he's saving the cat from a tree for a little girl. And just the way that Redondo draws him going around, it's very reminiscent of the Superman movie, right? Of him flying around the planet. So, yeah. But yeah, so when he hands it back at Supercorp and Lena's there, he gets knocked out by a kryptonite grenade, right? And it's the Lex Luthor Revenge Squad with the Chain, Farm, and Graft, and then someone in a Lex Luthor armor whose face is hidden. So I think that's an interesting that they're using Lex's stuff.
Yeah, that'll be a reveal. I mean, I think even before we get to that, though, there's a bit of tension as he comes in and he doesn't hear anyone. He's like shouting for Lois and Mercy, and no one's answering. And then Lena comes running out and sort of says fly away because she knows he's in danger. And that's when the kryptonite grenade comes out. So yeah, apparently we're going to get Lena Luthor versus the Revenge Squad next issue. Yeah, so I don't know. Like, I'm very middling on this run. Thus far, art's very good here, but I find myself just not loving the creative choices. Like either like, because I think the whole problem with the Western stuff in this issue is that not only do I feel like if this is all it was going to be, it seems like it wasn't worth the time. Obviously, I know we went on to say, oh, it teases some of this Marlin Moonlight stuff and it gets her to open up to Superman, but that's kind of my problem, is that after the tease of her looking at herself in the past, it's just her explaining it all to Superman. It's not actually a story that plays out in the past that solely reveals parts of it. Right.
And I almost would have preferred like Superman having to lay low. Like, he's not supposed to be in the past, right? So he has to watch this all unfold, which for someone like Superman that's very hard for him to do. Just let things happen, right? And that would add some tension and some, beyond tension, it adds some real character work to him. But
they loosely mention that he can't affect the past, but all that really boils down to is I won't wear my outfit because no one can recognize that in the future. Right. So he goes about in cowboy outfits, and that's fine, and that's all it takes. Right. I guess the argument is because he's interacting with another time traveler who shouldn't be there anyway. Right. That it's fine for him to intervene, but yeah, it's kind of wild that it almost feels like the teaser at the end of last issue with the train, it was kind of pointless because he had to come and talk to this villain anyway. So he could have just came and I don't know. There's just lots of things here that feel like they're like he wanted to do the Western thing and he wanted some key moments from Westerns.
Oh, yeah, and I talked myself into the Superman in the West, and you had the two Hawk characters there too, right? Like, and they're not here in this issue like at all. I forgot about them. Wow, where were they in this issue? Right. So I just figured we'd set like this kind of tone for almost like, let's say Williamson wanted to do like a little 3-story Marilyn Moonlight thing. Yeah, I just completely forgot they were at the end of that last issue in the past, and I never even thought about it again because it's forgettable, so I forgot about it. Where the hell are they in this issue? Why was that not mentioned at all? Right. Well, and also, like, unless I missed something, how's the time travel here work? How does Clark get back to modern times? Don't they mention something about stealing a device from a Terror Man? Is it from Terror Man? That was the whole point, yeah. Like his hovercraft thing had something in it. Because he's time traveling already anyway, so he's got time travel tech. Sure. Yeah, they do loosely explain that. That's not a... Okay. What I'm saying, it would be par for the course at this point. Yeah, he's wearing one of the things that he was. It's like a wrist thing. Yeah, that was in there. That was in there. But yeah, we get away from the train to get to that beautiful opening here, and like they're not touched on at all. I figured Williamson would have a lot of fun with some of the Old West characters, like we would get Jonah Hex or Batlatch or some of these characters showing up to kind of set the tone for the Old West of the DC, and nothing like that happens. And it kind of just feels like it's nice that we got the Marilyn Moonlight stuff, but the Terror Man plot doesn't seem to really do much. And like you said at the beginning, this is all just to get Superman out of the way so the Revenge Squad can do what they need to do. Yeah, and like I say, like the tease of... If the Marilyn Moonlight stuff had just been her looking at herself and Clark noticing that, and it had been left there, and her saying, no, I'm not... Like, you don't need to know anything about me, and it was still just a tease at this point, I think that would have been fine, just in the sense that it wouldn't have felt... Because as it is, she just goes on to explain pretty much everything to him, and it comes out of nowhere, and I don't think they're at a point in their relationship where she would feel like she could tell him everything. Like, it's not like they went on some adventure here where they bonded and like he's earned her trust because he had to really look out for her here. Like, this adventure in the West was barely an adventure as far as we've read. It feels like he was there for 18 hours. Yeah, if that. Yeah. I mean, yeah, so it doesn't feel like they've had enough time to bond, that she wants to spill her entire life story to him. Yep. So it feels a little disingenuous when you get to that point. And even at that, if you ignore that, she is still just telling him all this rather than actually giving us like more, I don't know, more natural, more natural kind of unfolding it during the story. Like it would have been cool to see like him being that guy in the town that wouldn't back down from the town bully, and that kind of inspires Marilyn Moonlight. So there's this weird paradox of Marilyn Moonlight inspiring or being inspired by Superman. So no matter what he does, he still inspires them, and we kind of get that, right? Because of Marilyn Moonlight kind of inspiring herself. But it's just, I don't know. I feel like there's better ways to go about it, where they can, like they always say, show, don't tell. And this comes down to Marilyn Moonlight just telling him everything. Yeah.
So it's not the worst issue in the run, but it's far from
it was one of the ones that in the moment I was fine reading it, and then when I stopped to think about it before I went to read whatever comic I was reading next, I went, wait, what the hell did I just read? And then when you process it, you start to notice all these things. So, but I feel like that happens when I read Williamson a lot. Like I get really into what I'm reading, and then I forget to be critical of it until, it's time. And then when you're looking at it critically, the warts and stuff really start to show.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a mediocre issue. I can absolutely see someone reading this and just not thinking about it much and just being fine with it because it's lightly entertaining, but that's really the best I could probably say about it, to be honest, at this point. What are you rating Superman, Matt?
I'm gonna give this a 6.5.
Yeah, just a 6 for me. It's it's not terrible to read or anything like that. The art's very nice. That's getting a lot of credit, but yeah, I can't really put it too much above that just flat positive line. So cool. Wonder Woman issue 5, legacy number 805. This is Tom King with Daniel Sampere on the art, and this is one of the best books going these past few months, and I don't think this issue was any exception to that. It has a very simple structure, which is a very neat dichotomy between the two plots that are going. So in one plot, you've got the villains and you've got the Sovereign narrating this stuff, talking about how Sergeant of Steel was assembling the anti-Wonder Woman squad, right? Building an army of all Wonder Woman's villains, and we'll go through all those pages in a bit. But at the same time, you've got Wonder Woman trying to convince all of the Wonder Girls that she doesn't want their help, that she doesn't want them to get involved. So what's so good about this is that you've got the villains building up a team as Wonder Woman, in theory, is shedding her team because she wants to make this a solo fight. And that just makes the stakes go higher as the issue is going on. Because no, Diana, they're forming a team. You need them. You need the others.
Every time, and she goes out of her way to be an anti-recruiter. Each time she tries to tell them, no, this is my fight. You guys don't need to be involved. This is all on me. Thank you, though. And she really goes out of her way to essentially defeat their trials. Because that's what Wonder Woman does, right? Like, she passes all the trials of the Amazons. And here's, each of the Wonder Girls gives her a different challenge to do.
They're given these trials, and the first page establishes that they each want something different. Also, what a structural thing here that I really liked is they go in reverse order of appearance. So you start with Yara, then Cassie, and then you end with Donna. So you're going back down the line from the newest one to the oldest.
Yep. And each of their challenges, kind of shows how well they know Diana, right, too. So it does ramp up, right? With Yara, it's something much more physical. With Cassie, it's something that's almost mental. And for Donna, it's definitely an emotional challenge.
I don't know. Arm wrestling's still pretty physical.
It wasn't the arm wrestling as much. It was the fact that the Cassie was talking to her as they were going, right? And telling me, like, you wouldn't, like, yes, you want me to sit out, but you taught me not to sit out. So she was kind of trying to appeal to Diana's, like, I know what you're doing, but it's not going to work, and then, Diana ends up, doing what she needs to do. But just the voices for all of these characters, I feel he just nails. And it's out of all of three of the Wonder Girls, the one I'm the most familiar with is Cassie, because I read, more of her than anybody else through Johns' Teen Titans and everything else. But, his voice for Yara is pretty spot on from what we've read before.
It sounds like Yara. And I think it's nice as well to read this issue from the perspective as the one kind of skeptical idea, the one worry going into this book when all this stuff was announced of what he was doing with Trinity, the daughter, was that sometimes when they introduce a new Wonder Girl, the rest of them kind of get shoved to the side and forgotten. So it was very nice in this issue to sort of treat them as the three pillars of, like, her support group. because it made them feel like a big deal. It makes them feel like, oh, they're not just going to be forgotten because Trinity exists, kind of thing. I thought that was very nice. So the way the issue basically works from this point on, after the first page setting that up, is that you get 2 pages of 2 different villains being recruited for the villain team, and then you'll get a few pages of one of the Wonder Girls trials. So just to go, we'll just go through it in order, because honestly, I don't see what other way to do it.
Well, do you want to break it down into the villains and the recruitment, and then the trials, or do you want to go one by one?
I will just go in order because I don't want to have to bounce back and forth.
Okay.
So, Sergeant Steel first of all recruits Giganta. There's a lot of stuff in the narration here about like what Giganta is and all the theories and rumors that she is a bear who became a woman, or a woman who became a bear then a woman again.
Coming out of Beast World and her becoming a bear, very funny. Like, that was very well timed on DC's part. So, but just the idea that at the end of the day she's Giganta and she's bigger than you. You know, it was just the art here, her standing in her, where you think it's just like a regular cell. And then when it's revealed that Sarge, she's in her giant form looking down at Sarge Steel, like, very, very fun art.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I was thinking about as they were recruiting some of these villains, because a lot of them are women, and how like sexist, particularly the Sovereign is. Yeah. It was, obviously narration. The pitch to them all, of course, is that, hey, you're going to get to kill Wonder Woman, and that's something you want, right? That in various forms is kind of the pitch to a lot of them. But it is interesting that we know he has no interest in giving any of these characters power. He doesn't want that. He's just selling them on a simple premise, and I think that's kind of interesting. And shows again the not that he's hypocritical per se, although he certainly probably is hypocritical, but more just the idea that he's willing to use other women to get what he wants, kind of like thing.
If he is the patriarchy given face, then this is him being able to turn women against each other for his own cause, right?
Yeah, and then we have Cersei is next.
Such a great reveal at the end here. They're talking about Cersei and how, with her history, they had to be really careful at sending men to talk to her, but ultimately she's a god that wants to be a bigger god. And how do they appeal to her, and she's with these pigs and she's feeding them. And, the thing about Cersei is that she turned Odysseus' men into pigs in the Odyssey. And then so when she goes to make the deal, she looks at this pig and shakes his hoof, and it's metal, and it's Sarge Steel has been turned into a pig.
My favorite part of that is the narration. The Sovereign says, we don't know exactly what went on at the meeting, but we understand it didn't go too well. So that serves as kind of the punchline with that image of like, Steel got turned into a pig, but ultimately, of course, as we find out at the end, still seemed to work as far as recruiting her goes anyway.
Though she eventually accepted, we cannot claim the meeting went entirely as well as hoped. Just very, very funny stuff.
Yeah, and then we get to Yara's trial, and this is the arrows, and it's basically just, these matching panels going down the side of each page with Diana and Yara pointing arrows at each other. And
they're just going to shoot arrows at each other and have them hit, so they'll start at 1, and then they'll fire 2 at the same time, and then 3. Very, very ballsy of Yara's part.
Yeah.
To choose this as her trial.
And of course there's dialogue throughout all this as well, about how she's got the advantage because she's young and she's faster and all these things. So, yeah, it's all very good. The art here is exceptional because it's all about pacing. It's all about the 1 arrow and the 2 arrows and the enlarged sort of contact when they hit each other in the middle of the battlefield, until eventually, of course, you get that one where they fire 4 arrows and one of each makes it through, and you're like, shit, are they both going to get hit? And then the next page, you see Yara gets hit, and the one goes right past Diana's shoulder, so Diana's not even been hit. So it's funny, but it kind of feels like it's perfect characterization of Yara, and that she's a bit over her head, she's a bit cocky, and that fits with her character. Like, whenever we've seen Yara before, she's felt a bit cocky, and it's always been entertaining, but it works here that Wonder Woman kind of bests her because She is young.
She lured her in because there's no motion lines or anything, but I like to think that Diana just kind of sideswiped the arrow, right? Like she moved because she knew Yara was never going to get her, so like she goaded her into it, and it's a attitude type thing.
Yeah.
And she just, but yeah.
And the important thing at the end here is that once she's won, she's like, Yara, okay, you have to swear that you won't interfere in this fight. You stay away from this war. Swear it. And then we go to our next villain recruitment. And I actually really like this one, because this one had a little twist to it, which is basically, it's Dr. Psycho. But the narration explains that Dr. Psycho is very kind of unpredictable, and he's got a lot of negatives because he's all about, he was dumped by a woman, so he swore revenge on all of womankind and all the rest of it. But he's so off his rocker that we actually decided not to use him. However, he actually tracked us down. Sergeant Steele went to his office one day, and Dr. Psycho was sitting there volunteering to be a part of the team that takes down Wonder Woman. I thought that was perfect for Dr. Psycho.
It's Dr. Psycho to a T.
Yeah, it's so good. And then we have Grail is up next. Interesting detail here is that Sergeant Steele doesn't recruit her. It's the Sovereign who goes personally to get her, because she's a god, and he thinks she deserves a bit more respect. And, the usual promise of fortune and fame and all that sort of stuff doesn't work on a god. That works on an immortal.
Yep. So. I do like that they're keeping Grail around, because Grail was a character they could have just tossed to the side, right? But the fact that they're recruiting her as part of this, it makes a lot of sense considering she's Darkseid's daughter, too. So, and then just the Sovereign's final line about who better to pay tribute to the daughter of Darkseid than we, the son of a dozen kings of the United States of America. And it's very anti-life, right? That sentence is just dripping with it, you know? So, yeah, very good stuff.
Yeah, because the Sovereign's entire thing's been manipulating, the propaganda and what the public thinks. So that's very anti-life. Then we go to Cassie's trial, which is an arm wrestling competition. But what really sticks out about this is the dialogue. Because Cassie knows Diana better than Yara does, it gets a bit more personal. And she talks about how she was never the princess type of girl. She was never into wearing those types of dresses or had the pomp and circumstance of it all. But talks about how when she saw Diana appear as Wonder Woman, she became a princess girl, meaning Diana as a princess. Now she had a princess she wanted to emulate, that she wanted to be herself. And that's why she wants to help Diana here. She won't let her fight this fight on her own. But of course, Diana eventually wins the arm wrestling competition and makes Cassie swear to not get involved. And she does. So, really good stuff. And, and the art here, of course, is great. Like, all these trials have a lot of great sequential art, where it's, this back and forth. In this case, it's arm wrestling. Before it was the arrows. Very different coloring schemes. This one's in, a bar, so there's a lot of oranges and, sort of wooden colors in the background.
A lot of those natural, it's like green and orange and, earth tones.
Yeah. Every time we go to a new scene in this issue, there's a sudden drastic change in color palette. Like, as we go to the next scene, which is Silver Swan's recruitment, we're in the sky. It's bright, this bright blue, pale sky, and even Silver Swan's all these steel and blue colors, barring the red hair, obviously, which is very sticks out. I should say. But yeah, this just talks about how Steel had to be dropped in the sky for a while. But again, seemed to ultimately recruit his target. And then we get Angleman, who I'm not as familiar with as a lot of these other characters.
Me neither. So that's where I'm looking him up now. But he seems like a wild card, right? Yeah. The way that King uses the narration to describe him.
Yeah. So basically, he talks about this guy who, without knowing what he'd done, discovered the final piece of the anti-life equation, right? He found the final angle, if you will. And this made him very important but he's in a mental hospital. He's in a padded cell, just drawing triangles everywhere, all over everything. So, yeah. And it basically talks about how people fear what he knows because of the information, because of the knowledge that he has. Very interesting to throw this character in. So whenever they do something like this where they assemble a team of villains and there's like one that I don't know, I'm like, oh, this is interesting. You're kind of elevating this, or at the very least, you're making me aware of a villain that I didn't know very well before. So that's cool. Have you found any juicy information on Angleman?
So far, no. Just the idea that he has a living embodiment of a piece of the anti-life. That seems to be new. So that seems to be something that King has introduced here, as far as I can tell.
Okay.
But yeah, he's a Phil Jimenez kind of, he's been around for a while, but it really came to prominence in the Phil Jimenez Wonder Woman run. So, but yeah.
All right. Donna's trial's up next, and Donna has a blinder of an idea here to win, because she's like, what could I beat Diana at easily? And her idea is a video game. So the final trial of the issue is them playing a fighting game, which is effectively Injustice. It's a bunch of DC characters, which I'm not against them having a fighting game based with all the heroes and villains in it. It makes, like, I totally believe this would exist if superheroes were real.
But
the question I have, though, is that the stage they fight in is the Batcave, and it's got the dinosaur and like all the other details you'd expect. And I'm like, how did the video game developers in the DC universe know about all this shit?
I'm so glad, because I got hung up on that too. Then I started thinking about it. I had to put the comic down and be like, wait, is this just for Nightwing and the Titans, right? Did Cyborg help create this? So that's why.
Okay, Cyborg, because he's a human machine robot man. He just whipped this up. Okay,
is this game only at Titan's Tower? Which, if that's the case, that's even more devious of Donna, right? 'Cause it's not a game that Diana could actually play. But once you get over that, it's the Donna's reason for doing this.
It's the minorest of quibbles. Like it's not a huge deal.
No.
It's interesting though, is that obviously they're playing the game and they're talking about being sisters, and again, it's Donna basically saying, like, there's no way I'm not getting involved. It's not happening, and they're playing the game, and obviously Donna's winning, and there's a lot of funny dialogue here from Diana where she's like, I think my buttons aren't working, and she keeps saying things like that, and it was really cracking me up. And ultimately though, she ends up fighting back and kicks the shit out of Donna's character, which, by the way, I love that Donna was playing as Batman and Diana was playing as Superman. It felt right to me based on their personalities. But what I liked about it in the end was, because I was going to critique it a little bit and say, what, you're secretly revealing that Diana's great at video games? That feels a little bit weird to me. I don't really see how she would be. But then she explains how, and she says, hey, I've been working for Batman for years. Whenever he's in a fight with someone like Superman, he usually has a chance because he's had time to prepare. And that's what I did. I know who you're roommates with. I know that you guys play video games. I prepared. And I'm like, oh, okay, you spent a few days training. All right, I'll accept that. I'll accept that as an explanation.
Well, and then she also says, and when they do fight, Superman and Batman do fight, Superman always holds back, right? And so this is Diana going, like, I was rope-a-doping you. I let you think that you had the edge. And then I just came and used all of Superman's full power to defeat your character. And the idea that at the beginning, Donna told Diana, when you get mad and lose, don't throw the controller at the TV. And that's exactly what Donna does.
Yeah, it's very funny. It's a punchline because she set that up earlier by saying don't do it. And then she got so mad that she lost that she did it anyway. But what makes that good, though, is apart from just being funny, is that it's showing her frustration because she wants to help Diana, and she's mad that Diana's tricked her and that she isn't going to get to help. And I think that's what gives it this weight. So it's not just a joke, it's a joke with actual meaning behind it. And that's actually very, very good writing. So that's great stuff. And she makes Donna swear not to get involved because she lost, and she's like, I swear. All right. And then you get the full page. So all of the Wonder Girls have been taken off the board, seemingly. And then you get a full page spread of all of the villains that have now been assembled in this Kill Wonder Woman squad, which is Silver Swan, Giganta, Grail, Cersei, Angleman, and Dr. Psycho. Hell of a lineup, right? And we go to Wonder Woman, we're going home at the end of the day in our civvies. And the narration is talking about, oh yeah, we actually like predicted and counted on that she would want to do this alone and that she would drive her allies away and that would help. So honestly, like, this has one of the best final page reveals and endings to a story that I've read in a single issue in some time, which is that Wonder Woman gets home to her place, she opens the door, and all three Wonder Girls are in costume, and the best one to quote here is basically Yara, who says, F your stupid trials, we're not letting you do this alone. It's like a total fist pump moment, and the Sovereign's narration at the end says, yeah, apparently we overestimated Wonder Woman's like abilities to control her allies or whatever.
Yep.
So she wasn't alone. She had her Wonder Girls with her. It's such a good fist pump moment because the entire issue, like I said, you're doing this sort of counting up and counting down at the same time, where the villains are getting stronger and stronger, and Wonder Woman's like intentionally turning her allies away, and you think all hope is lost and that she's completely on her own before the end, and then only for the three characters to turn around and say, no, we're going to ignore your stupid request and your stupid rules. We're doing this anyway.
Because we care about you. We're not going to let you do this on your own. And that's something that the Sovereign says about the team that they've assembled, right? That it's an army of madness, power, obsession, magic, savagery, divinity, and hate. And then at the on the last page, his narration to counter that is, and so she acquired her own army, an army of skill, strength, cunning, and love. So right there, the balances just keep going. You know, that they assembled a team of, you know, of hate-driven characters that want to get revenge on Diana. As she tried to drive these ones away, their love for her brought them back. And
I don't know if you noticed the detail on this last page. There's a photo of that kid who had cancer on on Diana's wall. Very nice touch.
Very nice touch.
Yeah.
So,
I thought this was a very fantastically orchestrated issue because it had a very simple goal, right? It's showing you that Wonder Woman is trying to say this is her fight and not to get the people she cares about involved, only for them to turn around and say, what the hell are you talking about? There's no way we're not helping you with this. Regardless of all your trials and rules, screw the Amazon rules. We don't care. That's, you know, I think it's just really uplifting at the end in a way that, you know, that this book's been very good at sort of like balancing the rooting for Wonder Woman against the sort of the impending doom that the narration from the Sovereign kind of implies all the time. Like, he's always doing these really dark things and like talking about how they're manipulating everyone and turning the opinion against Wonder Woman and all that stuff. So it makes it doubly like rewarding when you get to the characters who are standing by her no matter what, even when she herself is saying, don't stick up for me, and they're saying, you don't get a choice. Right? We care about you too much, you don't get a choice. And that's actually very uplifting, I think.
It's like, respectfully, we disagree. You know?
Yeah, so fantastic. And obviously the art from Sampere is just, it's next level stuff. Like that. The full page spreads towards the end of both the hero and villains teams are both wonderful. Yeah. No pun intended.
So, like, you brought up the arrows, and where the arrows with her and Yara, when they connect, it makes these stars. Yeah. Which, you know, stars are a thing we associate with Diana, right? But then when it gets to the Cassie stuff, it's so much more subdued, and it's just them doing the arm wrestling, right? And it's this 9-panel progression of them going back and forth, you know.
Not only do we go further back to like the people who she's known the longest each time, we also get more personal and setting. When it's Yara, it's out in a field somewhere, you know, it's just outside. Right. And then with Cassie, it's a sort of a more intimate setting, but in a bar, in a public place. And then when you get to Donna, it's on the couch in Donna's home. It's, you know,
outside,
it's the most intimate it could be.
Yeah, they're her and Yara are paces from each other, and then Cassie's, they're across the table, but then Donna and her are sitting next to each other. You know, it's all, again, I always, when I read a Tom King book, I have Connor in my head trying to tell me that it's not good, right? But then I'm reading, I'm like, no, man, I don't know what he's missing. I don't know what screws loose, but like, this is just storytelling across the board. Him and his artist have such a connection. They make all of this stuff work so well on so many different levels. Yeah, it's really astounding.
I think as well, like, you can get a clear sense of the three different voices for the Wonder Girls, especially on that final page where it basically just runs on from one of them to the next one through like three sets of bubbles. And Yara's very funny because she's the young angry one who's swearing a lot. Like, just like, F that, F this.
My kind of lady.
Yeah, so... Whereas Donna's like more respectful, I guess, and more kind of...
And just like demure, because her dialogue or her word bubbles kind of just blend into the back, right? Kind of like how she is, up against the window. But they're all basically saying the same thing, is that we're here for you, just in their own ways.
So, like, yeah, there's so much thought put into like how each of those trials and conversations are written, where the setting of each of them is, the order of them. It's all designed to orchestrate kind of a crescendo that you think is over by the time you get to the end, and then the last page, no, it's not over. They're all here anyway. Yeah. And that's it's like I say, it's a fist pump. It's the opposite of a gut punch, but with the same amount of impact, if that makes sense. But it's also exciting to see all these villains assemble, because okay, shit, we've got now this villain team working for Sergeant Steele. Like, yeah,
like, because usually in the last couple of years we'd have had Veronica Cale popping in there too, and so the fact that not that he necessarily dug deep, like Engelman's pretty deep, but bringing Grail in, bringing back in Silver Swan and Giganta, Cheetah's not here, so I'm wondering if knowing who Cheetah is, I feel like her not being down with the Sovereign, I feel if we see her, she's gonna maybe align more with Diana, but it's not the usual suspects, and I think there's a very pointed reason for that. These are all people that the Sovereign are basically exploiting, their own reasons for not liking Wonder Woman.
Yeah, well, on Veronica Cale, you could read that as one Cale, because the last time she had a big story with Wonder Woman, at least from what I've read, maybe some of the stuff I didn't read she was in, I don't know, but last I remember, Diana got her daughter back, so maybe...
Right, well, she showed up in this, remember? She was on one of the round tables talking about the Amazonian.
That's true, you're right.
Right.
But alternatively, you could also argue that Cale is this powerful woman, and probably wouldn't be...
She's not listening to the Sovereign, right?
Yeah, she wouldn't be tempted, like... or maybe even less to do with her and more to do with the Sovereign's view of Veronica. The idea that he wouldn't like including this woman who's a rich, successful businesswoman because she represents everything he doesn't want to succeed. Right. Maybe that's the way to look at it. Either way, you can kind of explain to an extent why he wouldn't want Veronica Cale as part of the team.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Same about Cheetah, right? There's numerous other Wonder Woman villains that we've known over the years. Yeah. And just the fact that these ones are chosen for a very specific reason, and for what each they represent by Tom King. Also, thematically in the story, they all have, like you're saying, like he would go after Cale for storyline reasons. He would go for, let Dr. Psycho in, even though he's the biggest wild card, right?
Because they almost don't want him, as they mentioned, but he showed up and he's like, well, he does hate her, so...
Yeah, and that could, be the undoing of the Sovereign, right? Because he's such a wild card that, and they got so blinded by bringing down Wonder Woman, they didn't realize, bringing someone like Psycho in. But this was just a masterclass in storytelling from both the artist and the writer. So just when I realized what they were doing by showing us the recruitment and then showing us Diana not recruiting and each of the trials, it just, man, once that clicked, I was like, man, this book's cooking.
Yeah, and even if you want to boil it down to its simplest possible terms, Diana's trying to get less people involved and therefore hurt, whereas the villains want to get as many people in because they don't care if they get hurt.
Right.
Not that I would expect the Sovereign to care about these specific characters anyway, but you know, the broad idea remains. So I think it's smart on that level. I think this is. I think this book, almost every single, we're 5 issues in, and I think at least 4 out of the 5 issues, including this one, have all felt like such full, meaty chapters where I feel like I've gotten a big, you know, section of the story. It feels like it's made a great point by the end of the issue, and it's done a great job of building up to make me excited for where the story goes next. I think every issue's done that, and I think that's very impressive, and it does make some other comic books feel a little, like, light in comparison, you know? Everything in here feels so important. Like, not a single page or panel feels wasted. It feels like it's constantly building the overall, like, saga that it's telling. So I don't know. I feel like if we're getting into kind of an off period for Superman right now, because, you know, action's shifted to this new format and Superman's still whatever. Obviously, the main Batman book's not doing that great. I love that Wonder Woman seems to have come in to kind of be like, no, this character gets to have an all-time run now. With the others not doing as hot. Obviously, Detective's still great and whatnot, but it you know. So really happy about that. Fantastic issue. I almost don't even know how much more I could say, or maybe I could speak for another hour about it. I don't know. But Matt, what are you rating Wonder Woman?
So I'm gonna give this a 9.5.
Yeah, I think a 9.5 is right where I am as well.
Did you read the backup, or are you done with the backup?
I did read the backup actually.
Okay. Gotcha.
So yeah, so it's Tom King writing still. With I think the credits at the end, so I'll tell you at the end.
It's still Belen Ortega.
Thank you. That's the one.
Artist. Yep.
So basically, John, Cassie, and Damien, and despite the fact that John and Cassie feel like they're still, well, maybe Cassie's a bit older. Not Cassie. I keep saying Cassie.
It's Trinity.
Yeah, but what's Lizzie is her
Lizzie
name. Yep. Sorry, the Freudian slip. So she seems to be a bit older, and Damien is shot from being 14 to being adult Damien in the Batman outfit with the big collar,
the trench coat.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm still kind of wonky on like the ages Damien's supposed to be in relation to her. Because John looks the exact same age here, of course, as he usually does.
Is that Kryptonian? Kryptonian don't crack, right?
Sure. But they're having a kangaroo race, which of course was Trinity's idea. And the winner gets to name their Trinity, their trio, right? So, their team. And she wants Trinity's Trinity.
It's not bad, though. Like, you know, it's not good, but it's not bad.
Yeah. And then, what was Damien's? Delta Force, that's what it was.
Because Delta means 3. It's such a Damien answer, too. Like, Delta means 3, and Force means, well, you know. And I like that John counters with, well, why not the Super Friends? Because we're all friends. You know, that's such a... Again, all the voices are distinct.
Yeah, it's a fun, light-hearted little romp at the end, you know, because the main book's such a serious kind of... I mean, it's a serious book, but it's also got kind of a really specific pacing. This is very much a refresher to get to this, and it is just more of a cartoony comic at the end, where the kids are being kids, even though they're not really kids in this bit of the story. Maybe Lizzie's still in her teens, but yeah. But anyway, so there's a whole thing where she tries to jump a gap with the kangaroo. It doesn't quite work, but technically she still wins, and she's kind of cheeky about it. Actually, I laughed a lot here at one of the lines here. Damien gives John shit. He's like, hey, aren't you supposed to save her? You're Superman. Does she look saved? And he's like, wait, I'm supposed to save her? Like, I can't do that all the time. You're Batman. What does Batman do? And Damien's response is, I am vengeance. I am the night. I avenge her nightly. I thought that was really funny. I thought that was a great line. But yes, so because they were talking about what the S symbol means and talking about hope and all the rest of it, Trinity decides to name their trio Gen S. And John likes it, Damien hates it. But yeah, so that's what they've got. And the joke at the end is that John's never going to shut up talking about what the S is and what it means and whatnot. He's like, technically the S comes from a river on Krypton that flows in that shape. That's why it's in the symbol.
Oh, this is going to be forever, isn't it? And weirdly, it looks like they're at a memorial on Themyscira for their parents at the end there, which is a bit telling. I wonder what that's about. And that also that Lizzie was breaking rules by letting the boys come to paradise.
Oh, no, right? She said at the start she got express permission from Queen Mum. So I don't think Diana's dead. I think it's implying Diana's the Queen of Themyscira now, I think. Gotcha.
I'm saying I could have sworn that she said she was catching heat for that.
It's like one of the first things she says.
Oh, okay. So I read that wrong. So she says, I didn't get special permission from Queen Mom to have the boys sit and argue. So basically, let's get to going.
Yeah.
I read that as she didn't get it, so let's get to going before we get into trouble. So I thought she was taking heat, but also her kangaroo was Jumpa Jr., which I thought was pretty funny.
I always forget about Jumper the kangaroo until I'm reminded of it. So it wasn't until she said Jumper Jr. I went, oh yeah, that's why they're kangaroos, because that's an old Wonder Woman thing that gets brought up once in a blue moon.
Yeah. And just at this end here where she says, I'm an Amazon, I don't mind forever, and as long as it's with you boys, there is a sense of family with them.
They call her sister repeatedly throughout this story.
Right. But just here, just the whole vibe of it, and just the idea that, like, yes, we know that their parents are really friends, and we've seen in other things Clark and Bruce refer to each other as brothers. Here, this is the first generation of heroes that I feel like they really are bonded family. It's a really weird thing because you don't get that with you get that with the Robins, right? But that's really the only set of sidekicks that really feel like that. With the Titans, they kind of have their own little dynamics going on. But here, King's really, really done a good job at establishing that these three kids do feel like they are cousins that grew up with each other. And just the idea that, Damien, paved the way for John and now Lizzie, in the comics, by when Morrison brought him in Batman and Son. It is a nice that they have their own, sense of purpose amongst them. They're not this lost generation, kind of like the Young Justice kids kind of became.
Yeah. All right. Well, we already rated the book, so we don't have to do that again. I just forgot there was a backup, but
that's okay.
Yeah, the backup's decent fun. It's nothing compared to the main story, but it's
it is a nice palate cleanser almost, right? Because the main book kind of gets serious and a little bit heavy at times, and so it's nice that this in the back, King gets to kind of stretch his legs and tell a little bit of a lighter story, right? Because we also had what'd she call herself? Was it Wonder Robin in that first one?
Yeah.
And all of that stuff. So it's nice that he can shift gears a little and do something a little bit lighter.
Yeah. All right. Nightwing 110, legacy number 297. As confirmed in the solicits today, Tom Taylor writing with Sam Basri on the art. So because it's the tie-in to the event, they actually give the whole page count to just one story. There's no backup in this one, but it does have the extra pages still. It's just all the main book.
Yep.
So this is basically the backup. Last time Damien turned into a cat, and this issue is Dick and John teaming up to go find Damien, because despite everything else going on, they care about getting their brother and saving him. We get a little bit of a tease as well as this Ava Apex and how she became what she is now. in the present day story.
I do like that they show she's essentially Dark Beast Boy, right? She has very similar origins. That she had that disease that they ended up curing in him, and that's why he's green and able to turn into different creatures.
Instead, she's dying in Arkham Tower until a spore tries to take her, and she just grabs it, or stabs it, I should say, and starts eating it. She gets Beast Boy powers. Kind of. She's able to control animals, so they're kind of different. But
control, and we find out that she can shapeshift too. But it seems like hers are more tied to whereas Gar can tap into the morphogenic field like Animal Man. It seems her transformations are a little bit more contained to her backstory.
Yeah. So it seems the implication I got. And maybe this just leans into maybe she already had a meta ability before, is that all the tattoos she has of all these different animals that she's hunted, I got the implication she's eaten all of them, and maybe the reason why she can transform into all those is because she's eaten them all, and that's why.
And that's what I was getting about into her backstory, and that's a little bit a bit of a contained, but her skewering that thing, I feel. Knowing that each of these are a piece of Gar, every time I see one of them drop, I get a little bit more sad. You know?
So I thought that opening with her backstory was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Obviously, Dick and John have got some heartwarming moments because they care about looking for Damien. They go to the Iceberg Lounge, deal with getting info from the Cobblepot siblings.
Them telling their guys to stop John, and there's like 4 of them on him. And he just keeps walking was such a funny visual.
Yeah, because they're all just sort of hugging him and grabbing his leg and trying to.
Oh wait, there's more than 4. It looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6. You can't just walk in here. He literally just did. But yeah, great stuff in there.
Oh no, yeah, it's just 5. I was going to say I think it's 6 because I can see an arm, but that's actually John's arm. I could see.
Yeah,
not one of them.
That's what got me too.
Yeah. So it turns out that some of the lesser reputable people in Gotham are running an animal fight club for gambling. And I actually loved where this was taking place. It's an old ice hockey rink that fell underground during the Cataclysm. I love a reference to No Man's Land and that era. That's a good stuff. But yeah, they've got Gale the Slayer. There's a bear named Gale in this, so this is Tom Taylor poking fun at Gail Simone.
Literally poking the bear. It's so funny. I turned that page and I saw that, and I had to let Connor know. Like, I didn't tell him exactly what Gale the Slayer was.
Yeah.
But I was like, when you get caught up, you're gonna have a very good laugh.
I do know that he was binging a lot of comics this week, catching up. Okay. So he's I don't think he's quite up to date yet, but I think he was closing the gap.
Right.
This week.
And even funnier than Gale the Slayer is what Apex Ava has named Damien.
Mr. Mittens.
Mr. Mittens. Just man.
Oh dear. So we've got Cat Damien fighting the bear. Looks quite disastrous at first, but then Ava tells Damien to attack, and turns out Damien's fighting skills are transferring over to cat form. So beats the shit out of the bear, and just before he goes to kill the bear, that's when John and Dick step in and stop him, because obviously they can't let him kill someone. That'd be problematic. So yeah, they end up flying out. Oh, I'm gonna sneeze again.
Oh.
There you go.
Also, I like this where they go to stop him, right? And it's Dick has the Eskrima stick underneath, and then John has his hand. So they're both, because of the relationship between both of these guys with Damien, it's very telling. Like, the art really nails that. And then the spore, which we've talked about, like, the supers have to be careful because the spores will consider them the biggest threat and jump to them. So as they're going out, the spore leaves Gale the Slayer to jump into John.
And Dick zaps it with his stick. But then there's a bunch of spores coming after them as they're flying away, so they have to get away quickly. John Heat Vision is the one that's inside Damien as it comes for him. And then basically the end of the issue is them going back and dealing with this illegal ice hockey rink with the gambling. John picks it up out of the ground, does some fighting stuff as Ava sets some wolves on Dick and Damien. So there's some fun stuff there. I think the fighting's where I really, really miss Redondo in this particular issue, because it just feels like a really generic comic book fighting. And I don't think Basri's art's bad. Like, Basri's art is perfectly nice to look at.
It's typical comic book fight scenes. Yeah. You know?
It's just not doing anything super stylish or anything memorable.
Or flashy. Yeah.
So, not bad by any means, but you got John lifting the whole thing out. We've got Ava still sort of around for a future thing. She even sort of teases it. I look forward to hunting you one day, Nightwing. So which was making me think, oh, is this Nightwing's Kraven the Hunter?
That's what I thought. The same thing. And the fact that she says, I hunted a wedge-tailed eagle in Australia, shot it in its nest, and just knowing we got Heartless gunning for Dick now. I mean, he's got the Titans. Like, her becoming his Kraven could prove to be a problem. And then she turns into that eagle that she hunted. So I feel like she's kind of limited to the animals that she's killed and eaten. That might just be a mental block thing for her. It might just be how her powers work, which I do think makes her stand out from Beast Boy, right?
Yeah, it's a more limited set of rules. But I actually almost like that, because if there's only like 5 or 6 things she can turn into, it's like, okay, but she can turn into one type of bird to fly. She can turn into one type of strong animal, one type of fast animal.
Well, and if she wants to turn into, let's say, a shark or whatever, right? She has to go kill and eat that shark. So it really makes her have to level up.
Which she could theoretically do, assuming she's not already done a shark, of course. I get that was just an example, but
of course. But
yeah. So that's pretty much it. Yeah, they have a bit of a heart-to-heart. Damien asks if he hurt anyone when he was turned, and John gives him a whole speech about how, whatever he did when he was turned isn't on him, in the same way that whoever he hurt when he was trained by League of Assassins isn't on him either. It's just on him to kind of like make up for it and break out of it. So it's a nice little speech at the end. It kind of taps into Damien's whole backstory. But yeah, that's the book. It's Nightwing. It's a fun issue. It's a solid tie-in to an event. It's never going to be as good, I think, as just a good issue of the run. But as a tie-in to Beast World, it's pretty solid, and I had a reasonable fun time reading it. And I think Ava as a villain is an interesting new addition to the repertoire. So
I also like that they did tie her into. She had the disease. She ate the piece of Beast Boy, so she's inherently tied to the same origin that Beast Boy. Which definitely I did not go on a Beast Boy origin dive and learn the causes of Sakutia, the disease that he had and had to be cured. So definitely didn't do that. But yeah, her Ava as a character, I think, is a nice addition to that Titans villains quiver, because she kind of balances out Gar that way.
Well, I don't think she's a Titans villain, though. I think she's going to be more specifically a Nightwing villain.
Think she's just going to be Nightwing, then?
I think so. I think the fact that she's got kind of ties to Gar makes it a bit more personal for him, and maybe it also gives him an idea how to fight her, because he knows Gar's weaknesses and he knows him well. But I think, like I say, her being more like his Kraven the Hunter is an interesting way to take it. So, yeah, so it's all a tie-in issue. What are we giving Nightwing?
I'm going to 7.5.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think ultimately it still feels like a tie-in issue, but it's a good tie-in issue. So, very good. Oh, I just did something I wasn't wanting to do. Okay. All right, next up, Titans issue 7, Tom Taylor writing and Travis Moore on the art. So Titans is focused more on the side of this event, which is the sort of where it came from in the first place, which is Brother Eternity and him being Tamaranian, and he's working with Garth, who's in Titans Tower, and that's kind of where this issue picks up. It's the Titans dealing with that threat, and he's just Brother Eternity's just revealed that he's actually, was it Zal, I think was the name of the Tamaranian. and sort of even talks about how he's responsible for her parents' death because he lured them away so that the parents would be vulnerable and killable.
He's part of that Necrostar cult, right? And so Exhal is the Tamaranian deity that Starfire represents, and he's all about destroying Exhal. So that's what the Necrostar was, and that he sold them out for that piece that would get him.
Yeah, he got it from the Dominators and some other alien race.
And the Citadel. Yeah.
I think what's interesting to me about this is I'm like, okay, so he's basically Tamaranian Scientology. That's what I'm getting from this guy.
You said that just in case. I would just leave it at cult, but but yeah. So I also like that he tries to, he infects Cyborg, and Cyborg hits him with a thing, and we get this body horror crawling into Cyborg. All for it to be for kind of nothing, because Cyborg still is a big processor, right? He's half man, half machine, and clearly it can't affect the machine, so it kind of just does nothing to him, which I did like. I like that twist.
Yeah, well, it's trying to, but Cyborg's basically able to fight it because some of the things that it's trying to connect to don't exist anymore.
Can't, right?
Yeah, so. Now you've got that. You've also got various monsters hunting down Barbara, who's inside the tower as well. Wally comes in and helps her. Nightwing's a fox. Remember that happened last issue in Titans, and they have to deal with him as well. Luckily, they deal with Garth because Raven shows up and sort of takes care of that. Actually, they push Garth into a chamber, which they then sort of take away all the humidity, so they basically dehydrate him as quickly as possible, which forces the parasite to come out. And then Raven just blasts it with magic. Raven's kind of a cold bitch in this issue, but for good reason, because she's obviously furious and distraught about the fact that Gar's been killed, seemingly. Right,
and this is because Brother Eternity would try to bring back the Necrostar.
Yeah.
The whole reason that and this all takes place between Beast World 4. So, this is ramping up to
before that. You mean?
Yeah, I thought that's what I said.
You said this between, before that. Which didn't really make any sense.
No, this is before, yeah. And so she's the epitome of this time it's personal, right?
Yeah.
She's just taken all of these things out without hesitation.
Is on a warpath, and that sort of keeps going until she. So we get the bit you were talking about before with Cyborg resisting the parasite and then just spitting it out. And then Starfire punches the shit out of him, which is satisfying because she obviously has a personal grudge. They've got Nightwing Fox in a bubble just to sort of keep him safe and so he won't hurt anyone.
Well, he's like, he was never going to turn into a cockroach, right? Even his fox self is kind of hot. I thought that was so funny.
That's just, who is it that says that? Is that Wally?
Yeah.
That's just Wally showing his furry side. That's all that is.
Should I put Foxwing down with the others? And then we get an awesome Corey moment, right? Because he lunges at Corey, and they know that it's going to try to attract to her because she's the more powerful, right? And she bites it in half and spits it out.
The parasite, this is.
The parasite, yeah, that's right. The Garo spore. To where she says, I will not be enslaved
There's a
again.
panel of the parasite coming out of the Nightwing Fox's mouth. You see it flying towards Starfire, and then the next page is just her biting down on the tentacles and spitting the rest of it out. And then wiping her mouth as if just to and she looks kind of evil on that, in a cool way, like in a cool kind of evil way. Like she's just something really badass. Like she doesn't give a shit anymore. So really fun. Nightwing turns back into Nightwing, and so yeah, we get actually there's a few. I was remembering the Raven moments more, but you're right. That's a cool moment for Starfire where she gets to be kind of a cool bitch. Raven gets a big one as well, where she goes to see Brother Eternity and opens up a portal, sends him away, he screams, and then she goes back to the rest of them and they say, "What happened? Where is he?" And she's like, "He's in the Phantom Zone." Which, of course, Wally asked the correct question here. You can just do that? You could just send someone to the Phantom Zone? Because that's not necessarily tied to magic all that well, so that's something very specific you've been able to do now.
I mean, if she can transport, if she can teleport between dimensions, I don't see why the Phantom Zone would be off limits, right? Because as we've seen, it kind of is its own pocket dimension. However, how come she's been holding this back? Raven, you're very scary right now. So if we end up on your bad side, you're just going to put us in the Phantom Zone? Like, oof.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because the last panel is her walking away saying, we've got a world to go save, let's go. And the rest of them are all just looking at her like, oh shit, we're all kind of scared of her now.
Yeah. Oof. Because even Nightwing, is kind of like, hey, and she responds, he's caused untold pain and death. Now he's in purgatory. Don't concern yourself with the ethics of this. And so it's almost like she's gone straight, just like Dark Mom Raven, like kind of this is what Trigon has wanted for her, but it took her love of Gar being, taken, right?
Yeah.
And becoming a starfish for her to really get into the depths.
I don't know if I would say she's already at the point that Trigon wanted, but she's definitely further on the path than perhaps she's been. And it makes sense she'd go to a dark place after the death of the person she loves. So, obviously there might be repercussions for this. This might be the start of her going down a darker path where maybe she keeps going closer or further and further into the darkness. Yeah. Or potentially if Beast Boy is back by the end of Beast World, maybe, that kind of snaps her back out of it or something. But, there's potential here to play with. I think I've kind of been very impressed with how the Titans book, these past 2 issues, has felt like a really good tie-in to the event, but also felt like it's doing its own thing, and that it's really playing up the Brother Eternity and the stuff that ties to Starfire, to the Tamarani and stuff, and tying to Raven because of her losing Beast Boy. It feels like it's doing some really specific cool character stuff for a lot of the Titans that feels really big. It doesn't feel like it's just spinning its wheels and doing event stuff because an event's on. It feels like this is all stuff that it'd be addressing anyway because this is the stuff that it was doing in its run whilst also setting up Beast World. So I think Taylor's pulled off something really interesting and respectful here, where he's done something where it functions. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you could read this really without Beast World, because I still you feel like you'd been missing a big chunk because
you're missing beats,
because Titans did set all that up as well, so you'd feel like a lot of it wasn't in the book. But I think this feels very worthwhile on its own as well, in a way, because it's doing so much with the characters in a way that I think that tie-ins sometimes don't. It still feels like a solid issue of the ongoing book, whilst also feeling like Beast World's essential at the same time. And I think that's a very interesting thing to achieve with this dual, writing going on.
Because this is not just the next chapter. This is stuff that builds into that story, that when there's payoff, it's going to feel worthwhile having read everything.
Yeah, because he could have easily done, Beast World issue 1's part 1, and then Titans issue 7's part 2, and he didn't do that. Like he did something a bit more nuanced, because people who are just reading Beast World, if they just jumped into the event, can just read Beast World. But if you were reading Titans and you're still reading it during Beast World, you're getting so much more depth with what all these characters are going through in the background. So, yeah, really, really appreciate that. Travis Moore's art's very good. Lots of great looks. We mentioned that page with Starfire biting the parasite and spitting out and then wiping her mouth. That is all the art. If the art wasn't good, that moment would be anywhere nearly as cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love his Corey so much, because she's, between this issue and the last issue, Travis Moore has just delivered like the Warrior Queen version of Starfire that we've kind of been missing. And I kind of put that on the Teen Titans cartoon, because it's this very, Corey's like this very silly, kind of lighthearted character that's experiencing the world, and comic book Corey has a much more nuanced and texture, like her backstory is very tragic, like they showed in the last one. So to see her get kind of these big moments and not just be the kind of happy-go-lucky, silly character, it feels very nice.
Yeah. So, we got badass moments. We got fun Fox Nightwing, some fun one-liners from Wally, and some big character beats in here for progressing the story. So, this is a very good issue of Titans to go alongside the Beast World event, I think. So, yeah, and I think it makes sense that you want to make sure the event is readable on its own, because there will be people who just jump into the event. But for people who are reading Titans already, Beast World will feel great. These issues of Titans will feel great. It's kind of a win all round, and is a far, far, far cry from those World Tour one shots.
Yes.
So excellent. What are you giving Titans?
I'm gonna use an 8.5.
Yeah, I think I'm in the ballpark of that. Yeah, I'll go with 8.5 as well, I think. I agree with that. Cool. All right. Green Lantern War Journal, issue 5. Philip Kennedy Johnson and Montos on the art. So, this is John has got his new ring. They got the one that was on the Varan, yeah, and he reignited it with the Genesis energy
fragment, yeah.
So this picks up here, and basically the ring, because it's he basically asked the ring, because he's been connected to this Radiant Dead stuff, he asked to see what this other Earth was like, or this other universe, and he gets like a glimpse of it. And honestly, my only critique of the art is going to be on this 2-page spread where you've got all the panels showing you glimpses of this other Earth. And they knew this was a problem because they put in arrows to show you where to read when you get to the bottom of the page, and that did feel a bit clunky. And I get why they put them in though, because I'm just trained to go to the left and go right across. It didn't naturally spiral for me, and they clearly thought of that. They obviously had someone test read it, and they've put in these little arrows for the last few panels to tell you what order to go in. It's it's a bit of a clunky fix, but at least they recognize that they need fixing, so that's something.
Yeah, because when I was reading this one, I got down and then I went to the immediate where the Dark Star logo is.
Yeah.
And then I saw the arrows, like, oh no, so then I had to backtrack. So but good on the letterer nailed it. To see that was going to be a problem with the art, because you also don't want to cover it up too much, right? Because this is like a showpiece.
Oh, for sure, yeah. The page is very pretty. There's no denying the actual art skill, but the choice of the laying out these panels and narration boxes was a little, it wasn't the perfect layout. We'll just say. So yeah, we've got John and Shepherd as the Lantern from the Other Earth, just to remind everyone who that is. They're saying goodbye to Steele and whatnot, and Steele and Natasha are feeling a bit awkward about telling John about his mother, and saying how thinks she's talking to her husband, who's obviously been long gone, her daughter. So John goes to see her, and this is another one of these heartbreaking scenes where the mother starts talking to him, but then she starts referencing John and the daughter being asleep. And you realize that she thinks she's talking to her husband when she's talking to John, and it's kind of heartbreaking because obviously he can tell that as well, and it would make sense as well that he might remind her of him, right? He probably looks like his dad, so But then she breaks down when she's like, "Wait, something's not quite right," and obviously when you get to this next page and it's all these like triangles as if it's just like shattered glass, as if her world's just completely shattering around her. It's pretty heartbreaking. And he goes to hug her. The color palette changes. It gets much colder. It feels like a really empty, lonely, fractured page. It's a really good series of choices here. This, if you had some little quibbles of that 2-page layout earlier where they had to put in the arrows, this one is like we're operating on a whole other level where it's working, it's distinct, it's memorable, but it's also easy to read. There's no doubts of where your eye's going for the bubbles. Very good stuff.
There's a flow to it that other one kind of was lacking, you know. But here, before he goes, right, he makes Natasha tells him to be careful because it's delicate in dealing with someone with her condition. And he just says, I'm a Green Lantern. A Green Lantern can do anything. And I love how this becomes his mantra through the rest of the book. Like, I'm not that schooled in the John Stewart mythology. I don't know if this is a thing that was established that Johnson's picked up on, but I feel like going forward, this is kind of his character in a nutshell. So I like what it represents here in the next couple pages.
Yeah, what he does here is he says a Green Lantern can do anything, and he forms a construct of his dead sister as a girl and makes her full color and even talks to her and says, do you understand what you are? And she's like, I'm your heart, I'm your mind, I'm your memories, and most of all, I'm your will, and I'm to protect Mother at all costs. And he kind of like approves of her, and he puts his dog tags around her, which maybe he's linked to her so that it's on some level. Like, I imagine there might be something that comes up in a later issue where he's getting his ass kicked and this construct starts to fade away because his will's not projecting it anymore, kind of thing.
Yeah,
I could see that.
Just leaving the dog tags for his mom. Oof.
Oh yeah, the dog tags just fall to the ground because there's no girl anymore.
God, Johnson's gonna do us dirty like that too, and try to make us cry.
Yeah, admittedly, like I don't know, like I don't necessarily love the idea that he can make a construct that can talk. Okay, I'm
no. It is this thing though that we're in the Wild West, like uncharted territory for Green Lanterns between Hal and him, right? Because
to be fair, yes, this Green Lantern energy that he's using is from the Genesis fragment. This is not the Green Lantern powered battery. But my logic with Green Lantern constructs has always been that it's more like a T-1000, right? You can make knives and stabbing weapons, but you can't make like a complex. Like
he can't clone himself to be two T-1000s, right?
Yes, yes. I just, so that's always kind of my thinking when I think of constructs. But obviously, Green Lantern writers through all of time have done their own weird, wacky takes. If you go back and read Silver Age Green Lantern when Hal was first introduced, he was doing all sorts of weird shit that I would never like in modern day Green Lantern comics.
It was a magic ring that was operating in their sci-fi rules. You know what I mean? So the fact here that this is channeled will, I think it opens up a door to what Green Lanterns can do. And
well, I think that the two reasons why I'm not mad at this is one, yes, the energy source is different if that's important to you. I think the real reason why I'm not that mad though is because he's not doing this to save the day and solve a problem. No. This is purely an emotional thing for his mother, and because it's not affecting like he's not doing this to. I don't know, win a fight with a big supervillain or something like that. Then I'd feel like it was, he's pulled this out of his ass kind of thing. Although, admittedly, if he does this later, makes a construct to trick a villain or something, it'll at least will have been set up here that he can do it, and it won't feel like complete bullshit because they've already done it. So, I'll acknowledge that. But ultimately, him making this choice to do this, to keep this lie going, and then seeing how happy the mother is because she sees her daughter in the next page, and like him leaving that behind, and like Shepard saying, hey, I'm not going to judge you for this, like, no judgment from me, like let's go and save the universe. Like I thought that was all very beautiful, so it's hard to be even mad at this when I typically feel I'm quite picky about what Green Lanterns can and can't do.
And the thing on that too is, he creates this contract, but I do feel like because there's such an emotional tie to it, that's why he can do it. I feel it's for his mom. It's to keep her comforted, right? Like in the heat of battle and whatever, he doesn't have those same emotions going, So it's almost like this thing is a product of the emotional spectrum, because what we always knew from when they introduced that spectrum was that green was just a piece of it, and now I feel like it's all bleeding in together, and this is basically just the power of will, right? It's no longer about the green, color spectrum and all of that other stuff that represents will. its will is something that can move mountains, right? It's more poetic than that. And for here, it's his will brought his sister back from the dead to comfort his mom. And again, this might be something that only Jon Stewart can do, right? Because of his relationship,
it may be
of the ring and his mom and his sister and all this other stuff. So,
but regardless, it's a great emotional beat. From there, him and Shepherd go to the rainforest where, this Dark Star logo has been, burned into the ground. John explains that a little bit to Shepherd, what that is. Basically, Shepherd talks about how he was a little disappointed with this Jon Stewart at first because the Jon Stewart hero seemed invincible, right, as John puts it himself. And this John had quit the Corps. He's this more flawed character, and I like this because John's basically like, hey, like, your heroes are still just human, right? They're just as fragile as everyone else. Like, no one's above all of that. I also like that when John makes like constructs of like various Green Lanterns to help fight, or Dark Stars, they're all kind of recognizable races. Like there's I don't know what
Zudarian, the fin-headed guy.
Yeah. I was gonna say a Tomar 2.
Well, that's who that is. That's Tomar 2.
Is that literally him?
Yeah, he got bounced from the Corps. That's how he ended up in the Dark Stars.
I just thought it was one of his kind, not literally him. But fair enough. Yeah. Or Tomar Ray's obviously the other one.
Yep.
So a bunch of Green Lanterns show up, right? And I was thinking, oh, is this all from the other universe? And it's not. This is the Green Lanterns that were sent by the United Planets, because I went back and glanced at this scene from last issue. Yep. So the guy from the planet, was it Duras? How I say his name is? The
Durlans. The Durlans. Durla.
Yeah, but what's the guy's name? The main one.
Oh, God.
It was something like Duras. I don't know. I could be.
Theron. Right?
Arenth?
What? Yeah, you're talking about the Durlan, the main bad guy, right?
Yeah, the main Darling guy.
Yeah. I believe it's Tharron. I think it's Terran.
Okay. Anyway, he sent a bunch of Green Lanterns because the father of Varen is like an important political figure, and he wants to be in a good place with them. So these Green Lanterns have been sent here to find him or get revenge on whoever killed him. So that's who all these guys are. Of course, as soon as they show up, they're basically a bunch of red shirts, and my first thought was, the Radiant Dead only infects Green Lanterns. This feels like a lot of fodder for the Radiant Dead to take over, doesn't it?
This seems like a terrible plan for the Green Lantern Corps.
Yeah. I mean, they couldn't have known what they were walking into, of course. No one else knows about this stuff, but still, sure enough, it comes up through the ground. The Revenant Queen's there.
Yep. Oh, man, she's looking rough.
Yeah. Basically, in the meantime, whilst John's been building his new ring and getting over everything, she has infected the Earth itself and is spreading everywhere. And if I have a critique of this issue, it is probably that it ends very, very suddenly and doesn't feel like it builds up to an ending.
Abrupt, yeah. I got done with this and I saw the end. It says, next, end and beginning. And I was like, wait, there's got to be more, right? And there was none. That was it.
Yeah.
So,
the opening is strong. The stuff with John's mother is fantastic. And I think the stuff in the rainforest building up to the Green Lanterns is nice and creepy, but with some good conversation. Yeah. Art from Montos is great throughout, barring that, needing the arrows to tell the order of that one page. Yeah. It's just a case of the ending doesn't build to a climax or a cliffhanger in the way that you'd expect it to. Right. It's in this big fight. The Green Lanterns haven't all been taken over yet, although I suspect all of them but the main two that we're following will next issue. Just because that makes sense to me. But yeah, so very, very good though. Like I've been digging this a lot. I think the John and Shepherd getting to know each other a little bit and just talking about their past and all that stuff is very good. So yeah, but the emotion stuff with the mom is fantastic. It's next level stuff. So yeah.
I'll agree. And by the way, it's Theros, not Theron. I was getting confused with Theron.
There you go.
Yes. So he's the grand uniting figure of this United Planets subplot.
Yeah. That's the whole corruption and the politics of the United Planets is something that's it's intriguing me more and more the more we get little snippets of it.
Yep.
But very, very good. So yeah, no, still love the art for the faces and like John's reactions. I mean, a lot of that emotional stuff is so good. Because of the art, because of the mother looking happy or shocked, or just downright terrified that she doesn't know where her kids are in one scene. All very good stuff.
And then her face when she sees Ellie walk in.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yes, Montos is working.
Yeah, even just the more subtle moments where like Natasha's like giving the side eye to John Henry because like you didn't tell him about his mum and about she's like in a worse state kind of thing. She's
deteriorating and you didn't tell him.
Yeah, all that stuff is very good. So, yeah. All right, what are you giving Green Lantern War Journal?
I'm gonna give it an 8.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give it an 8, and I think it would be higher if not for that weirdly abrupt ending and that one panel sequencing issue on that one page. So, still very good overall, but just those two quibbles kind of holding it back just a little bit. So, cool. Superman Batman World's Finest, issue 23, Mark Waid and Dan Mora on art. So, this, of course, is doing the whole Gog, Magog, Jimmy Gaga Logga.
I don't know what you were going for there.
Saying Gog and Magog back to back just made me feel like, okay, what the hell am I saying? This is nonsense.
Yes, which apparently means gateway in Gog's language. So that's what he tells him as he's sitting on that throne.
Yeah. So this was a solid issue in terms of art. There's some nice Superman and Batman moments. I will critique it a little bit, though, because it is mostly fighting. So therefore, it does go on quite quick. And while Dan Mora's art is obviously very good, the characters all look great, a lot of these pages, because it is just action, it doesn't stand out as great as some of his other issues are for art because there's less variety, you know?
Yeah, and so the one of the very few times that I criticize Dan Mora, there's a page where he says the summoning has begun, right? And all the heroes are coming up. The way that he draws Gog, it made me think there was something else going on because it looks like his face is twisting and contorting. So I'm like, is this where it reveals that he's not actually what he was? And it was just the way that Mora had chosen to draw with the emphasis to make him look as maniacal as possible. That kind of took me out a little bit.
Sure.
But the rest of the art throughout is fine. Just that one page, and then maybe when he has Superman, the Superman in his hands and stuff, his face looks a little wonky again, but it's all stuff that doesn't bother me as much. But because the emotional stuff is hitting there. So, but yeah, you're right. It is just a lot of fighting.
Yeah, so it's kind of a weird issue overall because of that. It's hard to be as excited. Obviously, they try and talk down David Magog and do seemingly kind of convince him that to turn sides. A lot of the heroes on this Earth end up teaming up with them to help stop Magog. The big thing here, other than some very pretty splash pages and fighting pages, is that Gog, I should say, is in over his head because he doesn't really know what to like. He thinks he's going to go off and like kill Darkseid and take over Apokolips, but he's going to get his ass whipped. That's what Batman and Superman seem to think. But Batman and Superman have this realization that Gog actually has the final piece of the anti-life equation. Finally enough, we're talking about that again this week in a different book, in a very different context. But that it's actually dangerous for Gog to go to Apokolips because Darkseid could get it. And the reason why they think this is because they basically realize that Gog's one sort of power, other than just being, big and strong and whatnot, is that he seems to be able to manipulate free will. Like he seems to be able to sway people, and that's what he's done to the heroes on this Earth. And that if he ends up in Darkseid's hands, Darkseid might be able to complete the anti-life equation, and that's doomsday for everyone. So there's a big splash page where both Supermen punch him, give him a big uppercut. That's a that's a page. It looks pretty. The big ending is that they're going to close this boom tube that Gog has opened to Apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
They have to close it before anything else can, go through or get through. And then the final page is Darkseid standing there with parademons behind him, just saying, "No need." So we got Darkseid to deal with next issue.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just my DC fandom or the fact that Waid had paced us out so much, but there was a sense of doom when the boom tube went off, right? And then you turn the page and Darkseid's just standing there. And, you're kind of waiting for it, right? Because they're kind of looking into the void. And then when it happens, and it's not just like the forces of Apocalypse, it's the man himself, But yeah, very, very, again, the impending sense of doom going onto this world.
The cliffhanger's great. The wrinkle that Gog might actually be the final piece of the Anti-Life equation. And the question at the end, does Darkseid know that? Is that why he's come personally to deal with this?
Mm-hmm.
Is very, very fascinating. And I do think that it does feel that there's a good sense of dread building up once the boom tube's opened. All the fighting with Gog, though, is just kind of fine. It looks good because of the art, but it's, it's definitely not my favourite issue of this book, or this arc even, because fundamentally it is mostly just fighting. And it looks good, but nothing special either. The fight is, there's not a lot of motion in the fight, in the sense that it's just a lot of big hits back and forth. Yeah. It's the Superman fighting, Gog screaming.
It's a series of big moments, right? And you get the little moments in between, but they're in small panels, so nothing really stands out. So it kind of messes with the pacing a bit.
Yeah, I think a more good through line throughout the fight would have been nice. As it is, it feels like a lot of colors, a lot of lines, a lot of stuff going on, and you kind of become a little bit numb to it as you're reading it.
Yeah. The through line that I wish they had kept up was when, Batman reminds David of who he is, and when he tells him how many times I have to say it, Superman never lies. And that's kind of what brings him back. So it would have been nice to more just follow Magog through all of the different fighting. And he sees the two Supermen take out Magog, right? We see everything from his point of view. That might have been a little bit better for pacing wise. So it doesn't just feel like this big kind of chaos fight scene. But,
yeah.
Mora's great though. Like everything, again, with the exception of a couple of those pages, his Darkseid is menacing. Like him standing there is like a big time. And even the bottom of that page with "We're too late" from Batman, there is this look of pain and worry, in that small panel. So, but yeah, just very good all around.
Yeah, the issue starts with the confrontation basically on like page 2, and then that's it. That's them fighting for the whole issue until the big cliffhanger with Darkseid. So yeah, definitely not going to rank as highly for me compared to some of the better issues of this book. But it's not a bad time. But it's definitely a victim of the type of issue that it is, for sure. A little bit more story, I think, would have went a long way. What are you giving World's Finest, Matt?
I'm going to give this a 7.5.
Yeah, this is a 7 for me. It's good, but it's not great for all the reasons kind of listed. All right, J. Garrick, The Flash, issue 4. Jeremy Adams writing with Diego Olortegui on the art. So this is delving into the backstory of Jay. Well, they're investigating the scientist, of course. Yep. And when they end up at Star Labs and talking to the current boss of Star Labs, it turns out that the scientist, whose name I'm blanking on right now,
Professor Hughes.
Thank you, Professor Hughes, is actually the silent partner who co-founded Star Labs. And they've got a journal, and then Jay reads the journal in front of Judy, and then that's most of the issues, like us seeing what's in this journal. It's the backstory of this guy. And he was a scientist who saw Alan Scott, the Golden Age Green Lantern, on TV, and decided that he thought everyone should be able to have powers and be special. And that's what he started working on. He started working on experimenting on animals, trying to unlock powers and make people better or mortal, whatever it may be.
Full-on mad scientist.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And he realized that he would need like a human test subject because the animals aren't working. So he started looking at different students at the Keystone University. And apparently had a couple of candidates first that he turned down, but then he found Jay, who wanted to be great, saw himself as potentially being great, but wasn't quite achieving it, right? And picked him as a lab assistant, and we get this whole backstory where the professor was like annoyed that he was chatting up girls. He thought that was distracting him from his work. But basically, the accident that gave Jay his powers wasn't an accident at all. It was planned by the scientist. He was intentionally dousing him in all these chemicals to see if it would do something to him. So I like that because it made the whole thing, like, you know, there's a lot of coincidence in the creation of the Flashes with the lightning strikes and whatnot.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's Jeremy Adams tying Jay into the Flash mythos and lore more than ever before, right? Because up to this point, yeah, he's the first Flash, but it's kind of a namesake thing. He's not really tapping into the Speed Force, right? He doesn't deal with time travel. All of these touchstones that I think make the Flash. And in the course of this issue, he the lab experiment was planned by a villain to reveal Jay's own greatness, right? That's Zoom. You know, so he's almost cherry picking from these stories that Jay Garrick inadvertently inspired in order to tie that into Jay. So again, it's a very Flash thing to do, and I think it works on multiple levels.
Very thematically, it is doing all those things. I like it because it takes away a lot of the coincidence, and I know that, you know, the modern Flashes, like there's indications that the Speed Force was choosing them. It wasn't just a random lightning strike and all the usual, you know. I know there's been little flourishes added on to those things, but
and here for Jay, it is his metagene, right? Is the professor figures out like this wouldn't have just worked on anybody. He happened to get the right guy.
Well, yeah, this isn't in the moment itself. This is after the accident, quote unquote. Jay, it turns out, has super speed. He tries this in multiple other patients and it never works. And it's much later, I think it's the 1960s, before he's realized, no, what happened is he tapped into the metagene that Jay already had. It won't just work on anyone. And then he's determined to try and duplicate the metagene at that point. In fact,
it's his own obsession. It ends up becoming almost like a Lovecraft story where this man's obsession leads him into darkness that he cannot comprehend.
He's so secretive about it that he kills the doctor who discovers Jay's got special abilities after, you know, he's in hospital from the accident. You know, this doctor's like, hey, this stuff that's in his body will let him run faster than anyone else. He'll probably speed up to bullets. And the scientist pulls out a gun and shoots the doctor in the head. Because no one can know about this discovery. So, yeah, it's super interesting. I enjoyed getting this pulpy history of this character in this. And it works as well because, of course, Jay doesn't remember this guy either, which is very interesting because he's so tied to his backstory. But we get this, him working on his stuff. He gets this benefactor who we keep in shadows. We don't know who that is, I don't think. But we see he builds the robot bear thing that we saw before. He sees Judy when she's already a teenager, and he realizes time travel's involved. And it's that realization that the metagene was passed down from Jay to his daughter that it means that maybe he could separate it and figure out a way to sort of make himself special, because that's ultimately what this is all about. He wants himself to become a god, and he wants to try and duplicate that no matter how, however he can. So he actually does the same experiment to Judy, right? Judy comes with Jay to work one day, and he set up a trap in the lab that'll trap her in the chemicals. And sure enough, the same thing happens to her. She gets the super speed. But it all goes a bit kablooey when one day she just disappears. And he even questions, like, wait, did my like experiment do that to her? Was this like a side effect of me like giving her all those chemicals? But then he realizes that Jay doesn't even seem to remember his daughter or even remember him. Like the timeline's been messed up. And that's kind of where it wraps up, and we come back to present day. The cliffhanger is a bit random. The secretary at Star Labs, like, her arm turns into a minigun and says, "Oh, Professor Hughes called, says you're fired," and then shoots the boss for giving the journal to the Flashes. The ending's a bit random and just kind of silly pulp. But I actually really enjoyed the backstory of the scientist, and I especially like his really old school cult leader looking outfit that he's wearing in the later stuff in the 60s period.
Hope that comes back around, like in other stories later. You know, whoever this benefactor is, whatever he was setting up, like why was he trying to bankroll this? How did this become Star Labs? It's almost kind of like, after seeing Oppenheimer, it's very reminiscent of Operation Paperclip, right? Where we were taking a bunch of foreign scientists and putting them in special projects, and that's how we end up on the moon, you know? So I wonder almost if it was the government that was setting him up, right? Because we already know, if you know your JSA lore, right, they end up at one point being forced to unmask for, you know, public safety, and they have to know who these masked men are. And that's kind of the whole point of the book, The Golden Age, is like, what if they did and what if they didn't? So,
I mean, honestly, my first instinct with this shadowy benefactor who's paying thingy to try and continue his experiments. Yeah. My first instinct was time travel. This is someone from the future. But I mean, I could just be making a leap there. There was just something about it. I was like, oh, we're going to recognize who this is if we ever see them.
Yeah, I feel like there's a reason that they shadowed the face, you know, to make it this thing. But yeah, just there's some of these real world ties stuff that I feel like Adams is working through. And, you know, I was worried that once it was revealed to be Professor Hughes and it was going to be this, oh, he was always a villain for Jay Garrick and one of those kind of retcons. But the way that it worked and making it a quintessential Flash, kind of taking Jay down that road, I ended up, you know, starting off from a negative place and really came around to it. So,
well,
you know,
I think for me, Jay Garrick's like backstory is so vague, and I've never really read like there's not a Jay Garrick year one, right, or anything like that, and it's not an origin that everyone knows or anything like that. So I feel like there's a lot more room for me personally to sort of like reshape what his backstory is. So I didn't have a problem with any of this. Whereas if you try and do it with Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, I'll just be rolling my eyes because I'm like, we know their backstory. It's been well explored. We know like what the fundamentals of it are. This, you know, is more of a blank canvas in a lot of ways. Obviously, there is a backstory that was there, but you know, like the backstories in Golden Age comics were, you know, a couple of pages at best. You know?
Yeah, and the fact that his origin is something called hard water vapors. You know, it's all kind of this.
Matt, last I checked,
were thrown together.
Matt, last I checked, hard water was ice, but maybe I'm.
Yeah, that's what. Well, actually, hard water is mineralized water, and it causes chaos out here in our pipes. You know, my brother has to deal with it a lot as a plumber. So, you know, that was. I think they were just trying to find something scientific-y back in the 30s. You know, well, we'll call it hard water, and it's these minerals that he inhaled that gave him his powers. You know, and I'm wondering how many kids in the day were dissolving stuff to try to replicate the Flash's powers. You know, so
I don't know. I have no idea, but
you know, but it's again Adam's tying this directly to like Flash stuff and making it more feel like he's tied into the Flash family. Like you could be right. This could be somebody
but I want to be
future.
clear though. I want to be clear though, Matt. Only thematically. There's nothing plot point here wise that actually ties him to any of those characters.
Right. Yet. Right. Because what if that is somebody from the future that we know, you know, that came to bankroll this to, you know, who knows? But yeah, just the fact that the themes are all there, and Jay doesn't feel like such an island amongst the Flash family. Like, I know that he raised Bart, right? There was that whole thing. That's how they tied Impulse and the families and stuff together. But, you know, him not being an island anymore, thematically, I think is a nice step.
Yeah, it doesn't have to become too similar to the others, though. Part of the strength of the character is that he can be different. He can feel different to the other ones that are a lot more samey. One of my favorite things about this issue is actually just how much the scientist kind of hates him and hates everyone else and just wants to do his work. He says when he's recruiting people, "Oh, Jay's not that attractive, and that means he won't be as distracted by girls." So then later on, when he is chatting up a girl at some point, I don't know if that's meant to be his wife,
Joan, right?
At the time, you see, there's during the montage, there's that page where it's the scientist's face, and there's all these panels around it, and it's like the time passing for 20 years, and you see in that 20 years he does get married to Joan, but I don't know if that's who he was chatting up at college, but like just the scientist, like just contempt for him, like, oh, he's not focused on the work, and it's almost like a stupid thing that he cares, because like you're about to use him as a human test subject, like he might die anyway, like why do you care if he's not committed?
Because it's projection. This man has nothing else going on for him either, so he doesn't want anything else going on for anyone else.
Yeah,
yeah. So he wants them to be mundane, and the fact that Jay was kind of a mediocre football player that he talks up, and that's how he gets him as a lab assistant. But Jay Garrick was still somebody that people liked. He kind of is. I almost put him as the heart of the JSA. He kind of is the one that ties them all together. So just the idea that he didn't even have Jay picked outright, that's probably frustrating him even more. But yeah, this is Jeremy Adams on the Flash is still, it's one of these things that some writers just kind of get the property, and he's just showing between this and his Flash with Wally run. I'm gonna be sad when this one's over, because then I won't have any more Jeremy Adams on the Flash. I'll just have him on Green Lantern.
Yeah, all right. What are you giving Flash?
I'm gonna give this an 8.
I think I'll go with a 7.5 on this. That's enjoyable. I like the backstory. I like fleshing it out a little bit, and the pulpy scientist villain is fun. I liked it from his perspective and all of his like sort of very untrustworthy kind of viewpoints on who Jay is. It's kind of interesting to get it from that angle. So, fun time. All right. So, that takes us on to Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong, issue 4. Brian Buccellato writing with Christian Duce and Tom Derrenick on the art. And I will say I didn't notice the art change in this one when it hit.
Yeah.
But this is continuing to be quite a bit of fun. The big thing, of course, is that Godzilla seemed to like really put Superman out before, to the point where some of the Justice League members are just straight up saying he's dead. And,
yeah, he doesn't have a pulse.
And Batman is basically saying, no, he's not gone yet. He's not done for yet. We'll find a way to bring him back. Batman even speculates we don't even know if he has someone else says we don't know if he has a pulse, and then Batman says, no, he's got the biggest heart of anyone I goddamn know. He has a pulse. So it's kind of sweet. It really plays on this idea of Batman like believing in Superman and basically believing that he'll be okay no matter what. And like again, obviously Batman's very proactive, so he's like, okay, let's figure out a way to deal with this. Let's do this. But he's the one that, as soon as like they're done talking about Superman, though, he's like, oh, no, okay, the Dreamstone's missing. This is how they've done it. Toyman, where's Toyman? Is he controlling these monsters? Like immediately, as soon as he's had time to like start investigating, he starts piecing it together almost instantly.
I mean, to me, that's also his coping strategy, right? He can't deal with personal stuff, so he's got a laser brain that he has to focus on something. And now it's this mystery of where do the Titans come from? I also like how through this issue, because they don't know this is Godzilla, they keep calling it the Metropolis Monster, which I do like. That fits in with the tone.
Well, yeah, one of them knows, though. Maybe it's Lex that calls him Godzilla.
Lex calls him Godzilla because he's working with some, we'll get to that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
He's working with some info from the other Earth.
Yeah, so they're looking about to try and find a lot of the monsters have sort of went into hiding, they went into the water or whatever. Kara is with King Kong, and she's having a staring contest to try and communicate with King Kong. She thinks that King Kong understands. Like, she has a moment where Kong seems to show a different facial expression, show something different in his eyes. So she flies off to go try and help Superman. She thinks she's needed, which leaves Green Arrow with Kong, and Kong is growling in his direction, and he's like, "Hey, big guy, we're cool." But then he realizes he's grilling at whoever's behind him, and it turns out the League of Assassins are on Skull Island. So Green Arrow and King Kong inadvertently team up to start fighting all these League of Assassins ninjas.
I love the stupid book so much.
Yeah.
I love that he pounds his chest at Green Arrow. Green Arrow takes it as a slight, right? Because Ollie's so self-centered that he's like, oh, the monkey has issues with me. Oh, wait, no, there's other people. Like, that was so funny to me.
Yeah, we have Lois coming back to see Clark on the Watchtower. So that's kind of an emotional beat. She pulls out the wedding ring she's found, or the engagement ring, I should say, and is like, my answer's yes, but you have to put it on me, so you have to wake up. So yeah, they're pulling at the heartstrings and all that. But she calls in some favors as a reporter to try and find out where Lex Luthor is, to try and track down the Legion of Doom. So, you know, she might end up being useful. The Legion of Doom bicker about who's in charge and who's taking orders. It's a whole thing.
Manta makes some sense, though. You know, he's talking about, you know, how Lex is going about this and these creatures and whatever. So, but that was a lot of fun, too.
Cheetah and Deathstroke are looking for Toyman as well, and Toyman does seem to be showing up in the vicinity of some of the monsters. He was at the pier when Godzilla was attacking Metropolis, they find out. Lex seems to be building Mecha Godzilla, and I don't know if I called this. I feel like I might have guessed this. Yeah,
because it's just like a big piece of technology. Like, I'm willing to bet he's gonna use whatever he found to make a Mecha Godzilla.
Yeah, he's talking about the tech and how they built some mechanical thing to, you know, mechanized Titan was the exact phrase, capable of defeating the greatest monsters. But yeah, he does point out, though, based on the files of the Other Earth, that Godzilla's just there to maintain natural order. He's not actually there to destroy things. We can't convince it to kill the Justice League. And it does raise the interesting question then, okay, so why was he fighting Superman so hard? Is it because Superman's powerful enough that he thought he was a Titan? Or is this manipulation from whatever Toyman's doing with the Dreamstone kind of thing?
So I took that as right from what we know about the Monsterverse, is that's what Godzilla does, right? Is he goes to seek out the big monster because he has to be king, right? That's his beef with King Kong in the movie. So the fact that Superman is on this Earth, kind of one of the biggest deals, I feel that that's what led him to Metropolis. And then he took care of business like Godzilla does, right? Like, he took out, so then he left to go find the next biggest threat to maintain that natural order. And so it ended up making a lot of sense there with where Godzilla's gone and then who he ends up fighting in this one, which that was another holy moment, you know?
Yeah, we're getting to that. I'm not convinced that's the reason why he fought Superman. I could still see it being a different reason, depending on what they want to reveal, but we'll see.
So what then, do you think that Toyman just brought him to... So you think he's looking more for Toyman? Because Toyman has the stone, and it's almost acting like the beacon?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, the fact that they made a point of showing that Toyman was there where Godzilla was. Yeah. And fighting Superman could be nothing more than Superman came up to him on his level.
Collateral damage, and, right?
Well, not even just collateral, but Superman came up and tried to, like, sort of stare him down. And Godzilla, you know,
doesn't play well with others, except when he does.
Yeah.
You know?
So... yeah, the rest of the heroes, like Wonder Woman, Flash, and Green Lantern, go to help Aquaman and Atlantis. So they've all got breathers on, and there's this giant Titan. It's like a big sea dragon, I'm going to call it.
Yeah, it's got like eel features, but also like, you know, weird, like, it's not fully like a snake though either. Like, yeah, like a sea dragon's the best thing.
It's definitely got like a dragon head though. Like, that's why I'm calling it that. So, you know, they're fighting this thing, and they're kind of struggling. then Godzilla swims in and fires off its atomic breath at the sea dragon, and they're all like freaking out. They don't know what to do. This big fight's happening underwater, and then Aquaman's like, "Look, we gotta, go open the door, Mark." And he's like, "King, you sure? All right." So Arthur goes and unlocks a big chain, and then we get this big full 2-page spread. Godzilla on one side, this sea dragon titan on the other side, and then in the middle, what Arthur's just released, it's a kraken, to which someone actually says he seriously just released the kraken. So there's a kraken fight.
And I like that they point out that it's not just the Kraken's not just another monster. It is Atlantis' last line of defense, right?
Yes.
So I like that they're working that in.
This is a giant monster native to this Earth. So that's interesting. This one ends kind of abruptly as well, actually, because it just goes to the last page after this, and it goes all the way back to Skull Island, because we've not been there since early on in the issue. But Green Arrow, when he went off the cliff earlier on, he fell onto the League of Assassins ship, and the end of the issue is him looking under the big tent that they've got on the ship, and there's a giant skull head. So, yeah. Did you recognize what this is meant to be?
Yeah, that's the scroll crawler. That's the thing that Kong fights in Skull Island.
Okay.
It's the giant king one. So I wonder what they're gonna do with that. Maybe throw it into a Lazarus pit and bring back a king skull crawler. I don't know.
But I don't know. Yeah.
Does Roz just want a cool trophy for the trophy room? Who knows?
I'll be honest, I sat looking at this panel for like 5 minutes trying to figure out what the hell skull it was meant to be. I was like, is this one of Ghidorah's heads? Like, that's what I was thinking. And I was like, nah.
Well, but why would it be on Skull Island, right? Now you got to do that tie.
I don't know.
To that.
I
don't forget Monsters Heroes from space. So,
True.
So, and you got to remember too that in the interior, in the logic of the story, Toyman brought these from that other Earth, right? So like Skull Island just popped up. So anything that was on there too. So I don't think like with Ghidorah, he would still be frozen, you would think. Because I don't think any of that stuff's happened. Although, who knows? Maybe we get Mecha Ghidorah, and that's what Lex is building.
I don't think so, because I think you have to have Ghidorah first before you have Mecha Ghidorah. Plus, Mecha Ghidorah in the movies isn't completely mecha. It's like
he's a cyborg.
Yeah, like parts of Ghidorah are still there, and then parts are cyborg. Whereas obviously Mecha Godzilla is just fully a mech thing. So I expect it's Mecha Godzilla that he's building, and maybe he's souped up with some Lex tech to give it a bit of extra oomph.
I was hoping he was just building a how we get the composite Superman Batman. I was hoping it was going to be a composite Mecha Godzilla Lex. It's essentially a Mecha Godzilla with Lex's head, right?
I do like though that in that page where he's talking about, you can kind of see in the big workshop there's like part of the tail and the eyeballs sort of sitting there, so you get a sense of what he's building. So we might get that next issue. If I have a critique for this issue, is that I think the reason why the ending feels so abrupt is because all the fighting on Skull Island with Kong and Green Arrow is over like ages ago. And then we come back, and there's a panel at the top of the last page of Kong walking away just to let us know exactly where we are. And all I could think was, why wouldn't you just split up some of that Green Arrow Kong fight so that it ended in the last couple pages and just went straight into this? Because that Green Arrow and Kong stuff, that continued on after Supergirl left. You could have ended that scene with the cliffhanger of the League of Assassins popping out the trees, cut there, go to the rest of the scenes in the book, and then just save that bit where they're fighting the League of Assassins together for the few pages before the ending, so that, because I think this last page on its own feels really weird separated from that. But
you could almost have had the page with Godzilla, the Sea Dragon, and the Kraken as the last kind of two.
You could have done it, but I'm just assuming they really wanted this to be the last page. I think just restructuring it to moving 3 or 4 pages from earlier to right before this, I think would have solved my issue. It just feels really weird to go to this last page when that felt over ages ago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It felt a bit weird to me. It's not a huge deal, but it stuck out.
But it's enough of one because it felt a little bit off to me too, because that was another one where I was expecting more, and then I got to the end and it was the end of the book.
Yeah. Art's been pretty solid. Obviously, the monsters especially look really good. Yeah. They've been really fun and entertaining.
Yeah.
I did feel the art change a little bit here or there, though. Especially, it was in the... I think it actually is during the Green Arrow and League fight, or just after that, where it felt like it changed, and I was really noticing the art bouncing around a little bit. You know, there's a page when Lois is on the phone, for example, to get looking up leads to try and find the Legion of Doom. I thought her face there really stuck out to me as looking very different from what a lot of the regular art is. You know, it's got kind of a stretched kind of look to it. I don't know. I wasn't feeling it so much, but yeah. There you go. That's my extent of thoughts. It's not a really fun book. Like I'm enjoying how they're mixing and matching. Having Green Arrow work with King Kong's kind of amusing. Yeah. Godzilla showing up to fight the various things, including the Kraken, also very entertaining. So, yeah. Well, if we're done, you can rate it, Matt.
You know, it's it. I'll give it 7.5.
Yeah, I think 7.5 sounds right to me as well. All right. So that'll take us out to the part of the show where we pick our favorite stuff of the week, favorite panel/moment, favorite cover, favorite art, and of course top 5 books. So, Matt, what was your favorite panel/moment of the week?
All right, man. There's some from Wonder Woman. I really like seeing the arrows clash, and you get the stars, right? That show. That's a really good scene. I mean, actually, any of those scenes that involve the Wonder Girls, I liked a lot. However, this is a house that worships coriander, and so her biting the Garo spore and spitting it out and saying, "I won't be enslaved again." That's like an all-time Corey moment. So that's gonna be mine.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's a few in Titans that I could pick. The Corey one's good. Raven being a cold badass is good. War Journal has that great emotional stuff with the mom, but for me it has to be the final page of Wonder Woman. I just think that way it all comes together with them saying, "No, screw your stupid trials. We're backing you up, and you don't get a say in the matter." I just think that was such a fist pump moment of a page that the entire issue built up to. So yeah, perfect. All right, cover of the week, Matt. You got any you want to throw out quickly?
So I was looking. So what I've been doing is when we go to talk about the books, since I have like a Comic Geeks open, I just click on that and I look at as we're talking, right? So because when there's books like or structure like this week where we read everything the same, it's kind of hard to look. One that immediately jumps to mind is the, let me scroll over, the Julian Tedesco, so I guess it's just Tedesco, Wonder Woman, which is just, it looks like a painted, almost like a portrait of Diana doing the crossed over wrists. That looks really good. There's also a Justice League versus Kong versus Godzilla that has, who did this one? It is the Jorge Molina, where it's got Kong and Godzilla clashing with the Trinity looking on, and it just looks kind of like an end of days kind of thing.
Sure.
And then there's also the fun Nightwing, right? The meme cover with Nightwing and Damian. However, I think I'm going to pick the Wonder Woman regular cover. Just it's got the star and just the way that it divides up with Sarge Steel and the Sovereign there. It looks very nice.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to the Michael Walsh World's Finest cover, which is Batman and Superman on a white background, and it's mostly just sort of dark blues and blacks, other than Superman's logo, which is red. But it just looks very distinct and sticks out at me. But I'm actually also going to pick the Wonder Woman regular cover because it is just beautiful. Those Sampere covers have been gorgeous this entire time. The different things around the Red Star, just really, really sold it. Yeah, it's almost a missed opportunity to have all the Wonder Girls on the cover, but I get it.
Yeah.
One of the variants does, but it's not.
It's not my style.
Yeah, it's not. I don't like it either. Plus, Cassie's missing on that for some reason. I don't know why. But yeah, so yeah, Main Wonder Woman cover's my pick as well. All right, art of the week, Matt.
This is one of those weeks where it's a slew because you have Redondo on Superman, and that's easily what carries that book. And then you have Montos on Green Lantern. And then you have Sampere on Wonder Woman. Usually Mora's in that conversation as well, but for compared to those other three,
not a standout issue this week in that case for him.
I've been thinking who I'm going to give that to. Well, and then you also got Travis Moore on Titans, and that's good too. But I don't think it's nearly on the level as the other three. For the sake of brevity, I'm going to give it to Sampere for Wonder Woman.
I'm also giving it to Sampere. There was other great art this week. Montos is probably slotting in at number 2 for me if I'm ordering them. But Sampere takes the cake. I think the art in Wonder Woman is just phenomenal, start to finish. So that's that. All right, top 5 books of the week, Matt. Go.
All right, 1 is Wonder Woman, 2 is War Journal, 3 is Titans, 4 is Flash, and 5 is Justice League Godzilla Con.
Sure. Wonder Woman's my number 1. No question. 2 Titans, 3 War Journal, 4 Nightwing, 5 Justice League Godzilla Kong. But was that the same as yours, or was it a little bit different in the middle?
I think it was different in the middle. Did you have Flash?
No.
No. So yeah, okay. I had Flash at 4.
Okay, a little bit different then. Okay, that's fine. All right, there you go. That's our ranking of this week's books. Next week, I'll just tell you what's coming out from DC Comics. We have Detective Comics 1081, Green Arrow issue 8, The Flash issue 5, Harley Quinn 36, Batman the Brave and the Bold issue 9, which does, if I recall correctly, feature Tom King and Mitch Gerads' next Joker Batman chapter. We also have Titans Beast World issue 5, we have The Penguin issue 6, Power Girl 5, Amazon's Attack issue 4, and Titans Beast World Tour Star City issue 1. So that's what's coming out next week from DC Comics. So we'll see you for those books next time. Let us know what you thought of these books that we talked about this week in the comments or on Twitter at DC Comics Podcast. You can, of course, hit the like button if you're on YouTube. Helps us out a bunch. And, of course, you can support us over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and get some bonuses. Various of the movie podcasts get bonus episodes or bonus shows and things like that. You get a little bit early access for Comics From The Multiverse. But if that's the main way to keep the show coming and help financially support everything, keep the lights on. But that has been the show, so thank you very much for joining us. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.